Chapter 34:19. Crisis in the host region. Fellow Taoists, what happened to Tao Master Tan? I saw him alive, and well a while ago. How did he die? Zhuowen stood in front of the two people who were talking about Tan Xinghua and asked with a sincere look. The two of them should be cultivators from the Eastern Space Camp. One of them was rather old, in his 40s. He had a beard and looked very rough. The other was a young cultivator, in his 20s. He was fair and clean and had the air of a scholar. The two of them looked at Zhuowen cautiously. The middle-aged man had a strange look on his face as he said, "My friend, don't you know? Sect Master Tan's death has spread like wildfire in the space camp. How can you not know?" Zhuowen explained, "I was in a dangerous place in the space battlefield some time ago and was trapped for a while. I just came out recently. When I returned to the space camp, I heard the two of you talking about Sect Master Tan. I was curious, so I wanted to ask about the details." As he spoke, Zhuowen gave the two of them a few high-grade Heavenly Path origin crystals. After the two of them accepted the Heavenly Path origin crystals, their expressions relaxed. They looked at each other. The middle-aged man nodded and said, "Since you are so sincere, I will tell you, this is not a secret. Now, all 4 space camps know about it. This matter started from the sect leader of the 10 Ultimates in Corpse sect, Sakyamuni. Then, the middle-aged man began to speak. Zhuowen listened quietly. However, the more he listened, the more gloomy his expression became. From the middle-aged man's narration, Zhuowen finally understood what had happened in the host region. He also knew why Tan Xinghua had died. And it all started from the 10 Ultimates in Corpse sect in the host region. The previous sect leader of the 10 Ultimates in Corpse sect, Senki Yin, suddenly died not long after Zhuowen left the Xianmi sky region. As Senki Yin's direct disciple, Sakyamuni took over as the new sect leader of the 10 Ultimates in Corpse sect. After Sakyamuni became the new sect leader, the 10 Ultimates in Corpse sect had been very peaceful. However, in the past 2 months, Indra had suddenly adopted a thunderous strategy. He had led the army of the In Corpse sect of the 10 Extremes to attack the Tao Palace forces of the host region, Fallen Star Mountain, Void Palace, and Sun-Chasing Temple. The sect leaders of these 3 Tao Palace forces were all captured by Sakyamuni, and after Indra used thunderous methods to take down these 3 Tao Palace level forces, it shook the entire Xianmi heavenly domain. There was an unwritten rule between the Tao Palace factions, which stated that they were not allowed to attack each other's territories and start a war. After all, Tao Palace forces were the symbol of every precept domain. They had deep foundations, and once a war broke out, the impact would be terrifying. It would implicate many other small and medium-sized forces. Once a Tao Palace faction started a war, by any means necessary, the other Tao Palace factions would join forces to suppress them. Originally, the Scarlet Mountain Manor, Falling Star Mountain Manor, Sun-Chasing Temple, and Void Palace had formed an alliance when the 10 Extremities in Corpse sect started the war. But what was even more frightening was that the new sect master of the 10 Ultimate in Corpse sect, Sakyamuni, was terrifyingly powerful, far surpassing the sect masters of the other 4 Tao Palaces, of the sect lords of the 4 great Tao Palaces. Only the sect lord of the Scarlet Mountain Villa managed to escape. The other 3 sect lords were severely injured and captured alive. Other than that, what was even more shocking was that the 10 Extremes in Corpse sect had used something called the Dead Man's Flower. When the Dead Man Flower was planted in a cultivator's body, it could instantly absorb a cultivator's lifetime of cultivation and bloom into a bright flower. Cultivators of the 10 Extremities in Corpse sect could advance quickly by absorbing the Dead Man Flower. Because of this heaven-defying item, the cultivators of the 10 Extremities in Corpse sect were generally stronger than the other Tao palaces. Even if the other 4 Tao palaces joined forces, they would still be crushed by the 10 Extremities Corps sect. What angered everyone even more was that after the 10 Extremities Corps sect took over Falling Star Mountain, Void Palace, and Sun-Chasing Temple, the cultivators of the 3 great factions were all used to plant the Dead Man's Flower. Almost no one survived. After the Scarlet Mountain Villa's sect lord's army was defeated, he fled back to the Scarlet Mountain Villa and activated the sect-protecting array. He also told the Eastern Sect Master, Tan Xinghua, about what had happened in the host region. Tan Xinghua was the Eastern Sect Master and also the overlord of the host region. Now that such a big thing had happened in the host region, Tan Xinghua naturally couldn't sit still. He led an elite team into the host region and headed to the 10 Extremities Corps sect. When the various factions of the host region saw Tan Xinghua personally take action, they were all filled with hope. They felt that if Tan Xinghua took action, Sakyamuni of the 10 Extremities Corps sect would be defeated without a doubt. Even the sect lord of the Scarlet Mountain Villa was filled with anticipation. Like everyone else, he thought that no matter how strong Sakyamuni was, he would still be defeated without a doubt if Tan Xinghua took action. After all, Tan Xinghua was a sky-reaching middle-stage expert. His strength was unparalleled and far surpassed all the cultivators in the host region. However, the battle between Tan Xinghua and Sakyamuni shocked everyone. Sakyamuni only used 3 moves to severely injure Tan Xinghua. His body was destroyed, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. After that, he was taken away by Sakyamuni. Although no one really saw Tan Xinghua fall, everyone knew that Tan Xinghua would definitely die if he fell into Sakyamuni's hands. It's Sakyamuni. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He found it unbelievable. How did the naughty Shiva's strength increase so quickly? Was it because of the Dead Man's Flower? Zhuowen's face turned ugly. When he found the Dead Man's Flower in the underground space of the 10 Extremities Corps sect, he knew that the Dead Man's Flower would definitely be a disaster in the future. Therefore, he destroyed all the Dead Man's Flowers in the underground space. However, he left a Dead Man's Flower and later gave it to the Pill Dao Immortal Alliance's leader, Ji Wuming. However, it was precisely because of this that Ji Wuming spent a lot of money to hire the Blood Prison Assassins to kill him. Later, he found out that the Dead Man's Flower was researched by Ji Wuming. This guy was in cahoots with the 10 Extremities Corps sect. After knowing that Zhuowen had destroyed most of the Dead Man's Flowers, Ji Wuming killed Zhuowen to silence him. Zhuowen was very sure that he had destroyed all the Dead Man's Flowers in the 10 Extremities Corps sect. However, the Dead Man's Flowers had appeared in the 10 Extremities Corps sect. He knew that all of this had something to do with Ji Wuming. After all, he had left a Dead Man's Flower for Ji Wuming to appraise and expose the evil deeds of the Corps sect of the 10 Extremities. Now, it seemed that Ji Wuming had returned the Dead Man's Flower to the 10 Extremities Corps sect. Zhuowen was a little annoyed. When he had returned to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, he had killed Ji Wuming. He had not thought about the Dead Man's Flower that he had given to Ji Wuming. If he had thought about it, he would have asked Ji Wuming about the whereabouts of the Dead Man's Flower. At that time, he could have followed the clues to the 10 Extremities Corps sect and completely destroyed the Dead Man's Flower. Then, this series of troublesome things would not have happened. Fellow Taoist, are you okay? The middle-aged man saw that Zhuowen had been in a daze and could not help but remind him. Zhuowen came back to his senses. He cupped his fists at the middle-aged man and said, "Thank you for telling me so much, fellow Taoist. I still have one question." Chapter 34, 20. Sealed, Sect Master Tan has fallen. Did the other 3 sect masters not take any action? The Nadi Shiva's actions have disrupted the balance between the various precept regions. They must be punished, Zhuowen said in a low voice. Sigh. The Nadi Shiva is too powerful. He defeated Sect Master Tan in 3 moves. He is suspected to be a late-stage Tongtian master. The other 3 sect masters are hesitating. Moreover, that Sakra has already said that he was originally a cultivator from the host region and would only target the host region. He wouldn't touch the other Dao regions. That's why the 3 Dao masters haven't made a move until now. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with anger. He was very dissatisfied with the 3 sect masters' actions. Zhuowen's expression was not good. The 4 sect masters were supposed to be on the same side. Now that Tan Xinghua had fallen, the Eastern Precept region had been disrupted by the 10 Ultimate Incorp sect, and they had spread evil things like the dead flower. If the 10 Ultimate Incorp sect continued to develop, it would definitely threaten the other precept regions. As for the promise made by Sakyamuni, Zhuowen felt that it was no different from a fart. Although Zhuowen despised the actions of the 3 sect masters, he did not intend to look for them. His identity was very sensitive. Now, if he was exposed, it would be very troublesome. Now that he had heard about the situation in the host region, Zhuowen was very worried that Ryuka would be involved. Therefore, he only wanted to rush back to the host region as soon as possible. Thank you, my friend. Zhuowen cupped his hands and thanked the middle-aged man. Then, he hurried toward the teleportation array of the Eastern Cosmic Camp. When Zhuowen arrived at the teleportation array to the host region, he found that the teleportation array to the Eastern Precept region had been blocked. Why did you close the teleportation array to the host region? Our sect is still in the host region. It is being invaded by the 10 Ultimate Incorp sect. We have to rush back to help. Yes. Why did you close the teleportation array? You have no right. The Eastern Cosmic Camp belongs to Sect Master Tan, not you. Open the teleportation array and let us go. Many cultivators had gathered at the teleportation array. These cultivators had heard about what had happened in the host region and wanted to return to their respective sections. After all, in the sect, there were their senior and junior brothers, relatives, masters, disciples, and other close people. How could they sit still when something so big happened in the host region? All of them requested to return. The 3 cultivators guarding the teleportation formation all had bitter expressions on their faces. They hurriedly consoled them. Everyone, please calm down. This is an order from the 3 Dao Lords. No one is allowed to leave the camp. After all, the alien race's army could still invade. The Eastern Space Camp is a very important strategic location. It can't be left empty. The explanation of the 3 cultivators immediately ignited the anger of the crowd. F***CK. Our brothers and sisters and our families are all in the host region. You're stopping us from going back, and you're telling us to stay here and guard against the invaders. How dare you say something like that? I don't care about the non-human army. My sect is in deep trouble. And you want me to continue guarding here? F***CK, your sister. Do you really want me to curse your ancestors? Everyone's anger was ignited. Some of them even unleashed their powerful auras, wanting to attack and push the 3 cultivators guarding the teleportation formation away. Although the 3 cultivators were not weak, there were simply too many cultivators gathered outside the teleportation array. There was no lack of powerful cultivators among them. The 3 cultivators were quickly defeated and left the teleportation array with their heads and faces covered in dirt. This teleportation formation is sealed by a sealing force. Who's the formation Dao Master here? Break the sealing force on this teleportation formation. The crowd rushed to the teleportation formation, but was quickly blocked by a sealing force. Everyone's expression was unpleasant. Among them, there were a few cultivators who were proficient in formations. After these cultivators observed the sealing force, their expressions turned ugly. This was because they realized that the sealing force was at the heaven ascension level. They had no ability to break it at all. Damn it! It must be a heaven ascension level formation Tao Master sent by the other Tao Lords to set up this sealing force around the teleportation formation. Damn it! The crowd was depressed. With the teleportation formation sealed, their chances of leaving the Eastern Space Camp and heading to the Eastern Tao Lord region were slim. Humph! Who allowed you to gather here? All of you, disperse! Suddenly, a thunderous voice rang out and attracted everyone's attention. A figure swept over from the Northern Space Camp near the Eastern Space Camp and appeared above the crowd in an instant. It was a burly middle-aged man in a light yellow robe. His eyes were filled with arrogance. It's the Northern Tao Lord, Yao Jianyuan. The crowd immediately noticed the middle-aged man and recognized his identity. Their eyes were filled with fear. Zhuowen, who was mixed in the crowd, looked at Yao Jianyuan with a gloomy expression. He could sense a murderous intent from Yao Jianyuan. I've already told the other two Tao Lords that will take care of the matters in the Eastern Tao Lord region. However, you gathered here to cause trouble. Are you looking down on us Tao Lords? Now, return to your positions. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Yao Jianyuan said coldly. The aura of a heaven ascension master in the intermediate stage suddenly erupted and spread around the teleportation formation like a tide. The cultivators who had gathered around the teleportation formation felt Yao Jianyuan's terrifying aura and retreated. He was an elite in the intermediate stage of the Heaven Ascension Master and a Tao Lord. He was not someone they could go against. To put it bluntly, in Yao Jianyuan's eyes, they were just ants. Tao Lord Yao, you keep saying that you'll take care of the matters in the Eastern Tao Lord region. However, you haven't done anything. Now, you're even stopping us from leaving the Eastern Space Camp. Is there any logic in this? Moreover, we're free to enter the Eastern Space Camp. Now that you're restricting our freedom, aren't you violating the rules of the Space Camp? Someone in the crowd retorted, Humph, the foreign tribe army may attack at any time. If you leave and the foreign tribe army invades, the entire space camp may be destroyed. Who's going to take responsibility for this? I'm the Tao Lord. Of course, I have to take responsibility for the space camp. Yao Jianyuan said coldly. Ha ha, when the foreign tribe army invaded, you didn't do much either. Instead, you wanted to surrender. If it wasn't for Master Zhua, the space camp would have been destroyed. It's all because of Master Zhua that the space camp was saved. It has nothing to do with you. If Master Zhua or Tao Lord Ten didn't allow us to leave, we would have obeyed. However, you don't have the right to do so. Chapter 34:21. Yao Jianyuan's fury. Yao Jianyuan's face darkened. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he looked at the cultivator who had just spoken. Whoosh! Yao Jianyuan attacked decisively. Violent energy swept out and set off a terrifying storm. Many of the cultivators below were swept away by the storm and fell to the ground. Some of the cultivators were even worse off. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their faces were pale. The cultivator who had mocked Yao Jianyuan was pale. Just as he was about to retreat, his neck was restrained by an energy. Then his feet left the ground, and he was lifted into the air. He floated in front of Yao Jianyuan. You've got guts. How dare you mock me? I am the Tao Lord of the North. You're just a soldier of the Starry Sky Camp. How dare you offend me? What a joke! Yao Jianyuan said darkly. The cultivator's face was terrifyingly pale. His body was trembling, but he was unyielding. He said hoarsely, Am I wrong? Isn't Master Zhuo the one who defeated the alien army? What did you do back then? The alien army has retreated into the primitive celestial domain. They won't be able to make a comeback in a short time. Our sect is in deep trouble, but you're stopping us from going back to help our sect. Aren't your intentions sinister? Or rather, you're in cahoots with Sakyamuni from the host domain. Yao Jinyuan's face turned even uglier. He was furious. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. As he spoke, energy surged in Yao Jinyuan's hand. The cultivator in Yao Jinyuan's hand looked like he was about to die. He knew that he couldn't survive in the hands of a mid-stage Tao Lord like Yao Jinyuan. The cultivators below couldn't bear to see him die. They were angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Yao Jianyuan was too powerful. Moreover, he was a Tao Lord. Even if he killed a cultivator, he only needed to pin a crime on him, and he wouldn't be punished. Bang! Just as Yao Jianyuan was about to kill the cultivator, a powerful energy swept out from the crowd and hit Yao Jianyuan's arm with great precision. Yao Jianyuan was not prepared at all. All his attention was focused on the cultivator in his hand. Puchi! The energy was as sharp as a blade as it landed on Yao Jinyuan's arm. Following that, a muffled Puchi sound was heard. Yao Jinyuan's arm exploded into a bloody mist. His right hand was actually blasted into fine powder by the energy. Blood splattered everywhere. As soon as Yao Jinyuan's arm exploded, the cultivator, whose neck was in Yao Jinyuan's grasp, immediately retreated at top speed. At the same time, the cultivator, who was out of danger, was also dumbfounded. He was prepared to die, but who would have thought that Yao Jinyuan's right hand would suddenly explode? However, he quickly realized that there must be some expert secretly helping him. All the cultivators present were dumbfounded. They didn't expect something like this to happen. It was too unexpected. As a Tao Lord, Yao Jinyuan's strength stood at the peak of the astral battlefield. In the space camp, no one was a match for Yao Jinyuan, but now the powerful Yao Jinyuan's right arm had exploded so easily. This was probably something only an expert of the same level could do. At the thought of this, everyone's gaze shot to the back of the crowd at the same time. There was a fierce-looking, middle-aged man. Many people saw clearly that the energy that exploded Yao Jinyuan's right arm was unleashed by this middle-aged man. Who is this person? I don't think I've seen this person before. I'm not sure either. He's never seen this person before either. However, this person is very powerful. He actually injured Tao Lord Yao. This isn't something an ordinary cultivator can do. The crowd discussed fervently. They all subconsciously retreated far away from Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen injured Yao Jianyuan, they all knew that it was a sneak attack. Now that this person was exposed, he would have to suffer Yao Jinyuan's wrath. This was going to be bad. Although they were very resentful towards Yao Jianyuan for stopping them from leaving the Eastern Space Camp, they were just complaining. However, they didn't dare to attack Yao Jianyuan, who was a highly respected Tao Lord. This was a place where people would die. They wouldn't really offend Yao Jianyuan. Now, this middle-aged man attacked without saying anything and even injured Yao Jianyuan. This guy was simply courting death. They didn't dare to get too close to this guy in case they were implicated. The cultivator who escaped from Yao Jinyuan's attack also noticed Zhuowen. He cupped his hands towards Zhuowen to express his gratitude, but he didn't have any intention of getting closer. His eyes were filled with fear. He had just walked between life and death and had a lingering fear in his heart. He didn't dare to offend Yao Jianyuan again. Zhuowen naturally noticed the crowd's sudden separation and guessed what they were thinking. He didn't care too much and raised his head to look at Yao Jianyuan. At this moment, Yao Jianyuan's gaze also landed on Zhuowen. His face was extremely gloomy, and his expression was terrifyingly cold. He suppressed the anger in his chest and looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at a dead man. "How dare you sneak an attack on me?" Yao Jianyuan took a deep breath and said in a cold voice that was filled with killing intent. Zhuowen's expression was calm as he said, "Dao Lord Yao, you better not slander me like this. When did I sneak an attack on you? I was only trying to save that fellow cultivator. Speaking of which, you're the one who's been bullying us. We're free to enter and leave the space camp. Now you're restricting our freedom. What's the meaning of this? Moreover, this is the Eastern Space Camp, and you're only the Dao Lord of the Northern Space Camp. If Dao Lord Tan were to give us orders, we'd accept it wholeheartedly. But who do you think you are? You've crossed the line by ordering us around." Zhuowen's voice was very calm, but his words were filled with hostility. Every word he said was filled with sarcasm towards Yao Jianyuan. Yao Jianyuan couldn't stand Zhuowen's sarcasm. He said coldly, "Brother Tan and I are like brothers. Now that he's no longer around, I naturally have the responsibility to maintain order in the Eastern Space Camp. I don't want a troublemaker like you to cause chaos in the camp." "Like brothers? If that's the case, then Dao Lord Yao should go to the host region to find Sakyamuni and take revenge for Dao Lord Tan. What's the point of talking here? Are you trying to show off your ignorance and cowardice?" Zhuowen laughed coldly. "How dare you offend me again and again? You're courting death." Yao Jianyuan couldn't take it anymore. Every word Zhuowen said was like a sharp sword that stabbed into his heart. He was speechless. In the end, he chose to use violence to suppress Zhuowen. He wanted to kill Zhuowen directly. Yao Jianyuan was very confident in himself. This cultivator, who appeared out of nowhere, was quite strong. However, he only managed to break one of Yao Jianyuan's arms by sneaking an attack. Chapter 3422. As a footpad at this moment, Yao Jianyuan made his move. With a flip of his hand, he blasted out a palm strike. Terrifying energy exploded, as if the nine heavens' profound thunder had descended upon the world. The continuous explosion was terrifying. The moment Yao Jianyuan made his move, the momentum was so great that all living beings in the star battlefield could feel it. The two Dao masters, LV Yelyang and Mei Zi, and who were originally in charge of the Western Cosmic Campsite, were also awakened. The two of them walked out of their seclusion and looked towards the Eastern Cosmic Campsite. Over at the Cosmic Campsite, a terrifying energy appeared in the sky. It had the power to destroy the world and swept over. It was abnormally terrifying and eye-catching. Is this Yao Jianyuan's aura? Is he crazy? Why is he attacking the Eastern Cosmic Campsite? Is he going to destroy the Eastern Cosmic Campsite? The Western Dao Master, LV Yelyang, looked gloomy. He took a step forward and rushed towards the Eastern Cosmic Campsite. What is Yao Jianyuan doing? The Southern Dao Master, Mei Zi, and couldn't hold back either. He also took a step forward and rushed towards the Eastern Cosmic Campsite. Not only LV Yelyang and Mei Zi, but the other cultivators in the Cosmic Campsite were also awakened. They all gathered towards the Eastern Cosmic Campsite, wanting to see what was going on in the Eastern Cosmic Campsite that caused such a terrifying energy fluctuation. As the crowd gathered towards the Eastern Cosmic Campsite, Yao Jianyuan floated in midair like a god or a demon. His remaining left hand had already struck out. The powerful energy condensed into a golden palm the size of a mountain. It whistled through the air and landed on top of Zhuowen's head. The cultivators near Zhuowen had already retreated far away. They looked at the golden palm in shock. They knew that Yao Jianyuan was really angry. He didn't hold back in this attack. Its power was too terrifying. It felt as if the entire world was going to collapse because of this palm, especially the cultivators who had complained about Yao Jianyuan before. After feeling the terror of this attack, their faces turned pale. They swore to themselves that they would never speak carelessly in front of Yao Jianyuan again. In the hands of such a powerhouse, they wouldn't even be able to withstand a slap. Boom! The golden palm was very fast, and it landed on Zhuowen's body in an instant. The blazing golden light instantly engulfed Zhuowen's figure, making it impossible for anyone to see him. On the ground where Zhuowen was standing, terrifying cracks began to appear. Then it began to collapse, forming a deep and terrifying pit. It was pitch black, like an endless abyss. This fellow Taoist is dead for sure. It was fine if he just moved his mouth, but he might not even be killed. He's got some guts, actually daring to make a move. Now that he's angered Taoist Yao, this is the only outcome. The surrounding cultivators shook their heads and sighed. When they saw Zhuowen being killed just like that, they felt a little sad for him. After unleashing that palm strike, Yao Jianyuan slowly retracted his right hand and placed it behind his back. His eyes shone with arrogance as he looked around. When he saw that everyone was as silent as cicadas in winter, their eyes filled with fear and reverence, he felt very satisfied. It seemed that the effect of killing the chicken to warn the monkey was not bad. In the future, the cultivators of the eastern camp would no longer dare to oppose him. Although his right arm was broken and he was angry, he felt that killing the cultivator who offended him was too easy on him. However, he was also quite pleased to receive such an obvious effect of killing the chicken to warn the monkey. This is your full strength attack. The so-called Taoist master's strength seems to be a little weak. Just as everyone was discussing, and Yao Jianyuan was feeling proud, a cold and ruthless voice came from the deep pit below. The sound of footsteps was accompanied by the sound of footsteps. The footsteps were very regular, but when they stopped by everyone's ears, they had a different kind of magic, causing them to involuntarily stop talking and freeze in place. The expression on Yao Jianyuan's face instantly froze. His eyes almost popped out as he stared at the pit below. There, a figure slowly appeared. He was very familiar with this figure. It was the middle-aged man he thought was dead for sure. When Zhuowen completely appeared in front of everyone, the clothes on his upper body had been completely torn, revealing his strong body. Moreover, his body exuded a glazed brilliance that constantly flowed around him, as if he was forged from the most exquisite jade in the world. Everyone was in disbelief. They had indeed seen Yao Jianyuan's full-strength attack smash down on Zhuowen's body with the golden palm. However, there was no wound on Zhuowen's body, and not even a drop of blood flowed out. How terrifying was this guy's physical body? It actually withstood the full-strength attack of a Taoist master in the middle stage. It was really unbelievable. Yao Jianyuan was also shocked, especially when he saw Zhuowen's perfect physical body. He felt his hair stand on end and felt a sense of panic. Courtesy demands reciprocity. You had a good time beating me up just now. Now it's my turn. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a trace of a wicked smile. His right foot suddenly kicked off, and he shot out like an arrow from a bow. Yao Jianyuan's expression changed drastically. He immediately took out his life artifact and protected his chest. This was a heart-protecting mirror, forged from bronze and flowing with a golden luster. It was very extraordinary. Zhuowen's fist smashed into the heart-protecting mirror, and a terrifying power exploded out. Cracks actually appeared on the heart-protecting mirror, and then it shattered into pieces, shattering into countless pieces. Then Zhuowen's fist was like a rainbow that pierced through the shattered heart-protecting mirror and ruthlessly smashed into Yao Jianyuan's chest. Puchi, blood splattered. Yao Jinyuan's eyes widened, and his body trembled as he looked at his chest in disbelief. He saw that Zhuowen's fist had penetrated his chest, and blood spurted out from his back, splashing into the air and sprinkling down, turning into a rain of blood. And his heart, under the terrifying force of the fist, had already exploded into pieces. Cough! Yao Jianyuan coughed out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Zhuowen. Until now, he still couldn't believe that he had been defeated just like that. In just one move, he was beaten half to death, and was now on the verge of death. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He suddenly shook his right fist, and Yao Jianyuan grunted and kept retreating, escaping from Zhuowen's fist. But the moment he escaped from Zhuowen's fist, his chest was ruthlessly trampled by a foot. His sternum caved in, and he fell to the ground like a meteor, smashing a deep human-shaped hole in the ground. Yao Jianyuan tried to stretch out his hands to support his body, trying to stand up. Unfortunately, he had no chance. Zhuowen landed on the ground, and his feet were on his chest, using him as a cushion to stand. At this moment, all the surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded. Looking at this extremely dramatic scene, they wondered if they were hallucinating. It was unbelievable that Yao Jianyuan had been defeated so easily. Chapter 34:23. Ruthless. Ah. Yao Jianyuan roared angrily. He felt extremely humiliated. He was the Northern Taoist master, one of the highest commanders in the Star Wars battlefield. He had a noble status, but now he was being stepped on by Zhuowen in front of everyone. His posture was too ugly. Divine light flashed on Yao Jianyuan's body. He was about to explode, but he was suppressed by Zhuowen and could not move. "Do you want to die so badly?" Zhuowen's foot stomped down on Yao Jianyuan's mouth. A powerful force exploded out, and Yao Jianyuan's jaw was dislocated. His flesh and blood were mangled, and his voice became indistinct. He couldn't make the correct sound. "It's finally quiet." Zhuowen clapped his hands. The surrounding cultivators were all dumbfounded. They cursed in their hearts, "This guy is too fierce." Not only did he step on Yao Jianyuan like a stepping stone, he even stepped on his mouth because he thought he was noisy. This is a little too horrible to look at. Yao Jianyuan was terrified. His jaw was badly mangled, and the intense pain almost made Yao Jianyuan faint. He did not dare to scream anymore. The guy in front of him did not play by the rules. He was so unscrupulous. He was really afraid that if he angered this guy, he would attack fiercely and kill him. Whoosh whoosh. At that moment, two streams of light suddenly appeared above the Eastern Starry Sky campsite. A powerful aura filled the entire Eastern Starry Sky campsite. Everyone looked up and saw two dignified men. One of the men was wearing a long yellow robe. He had a high-nose bridge and was quite handsome. The man in the yellow robe was the Western Taoist master, Lv Yelyang. The other man in the silver robe was the Southern Taoist master, Maisie, and the arrival of the two Taoist masters caused an uproar. All the cultivators were in an uproar. In addition, above the other three camps, there were many figures flashing and flying over. They were like a swarm of locusts densely packed together. They knew that the terrifying battle here had attracted the attention of the cultivators in the other Starry Sky campsites. Mate Xian and Lv Yelyang hovered above the Eastern Space Camp. They immediately saw the huge crater below them and the terrifying energy waves that had yet to dissipate. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying the battle he had just experienced was. Then, the two of them finally saw Yao Jianyuan. When they saw Yao Jianyuan lying on his back in the pit, his chin was almost broken, and he couldn't even speak clearly. A figure stepped on Yao Jianyuan's chest, using him as a footrest. The two of them fell silent, and then they were shocked. That guy was actually using the Tao Lord of the Northern Daylord's body as a stepping stone. As for Zhuowen, under Mei Zian and LV Yelyang's dumbfounded gazes, he used his feet to rub Yao Jianyuan's chest, causing Yao Jianyuan to wail in pain. Then Zhuowen straightened his body, straightened his back, and put his hands behind his back. He pretended to look deep as he looked at Mei Zian and LV Yelyang. It was as if he was invincible and lonely in the world. When Yao Jianyuan saw Zhuowen stepping on him to show off, he was so angry that he almost jumped up and fought with his life. He wanted to slap Zhuowen to the ground and let him know why the flowers were so red. However, he didn't dare and could only fantasize in his heart, because Zhuowen had already shown him why the flowers were so red. If he dared to move, there was no telling which part of his body would bloom again. Who is this guy? Mei Zian was stunned. He was completely frightened by Yao Jianyuan's miserable state. He looked at Zhuowen with fear, especially Zhuowen's demeanor of an expert. Mei Zian and LV Yelyang were afraid of attacking him. They cursed him in their hearts. I don't know this guy, but I guess he was the one who fought with brother Yao just now. This guy is not simple. Look, he is intact and has no injuries at all. This is incredible, LV Yelyang said with fear in his voice. Mei Zian nodded. He also found it incredible. Yao Jianyuan was an expert in the middle stage of the Sky-Reaching Lord. He was one of the 4-path lords on the starry battlefield. He had a high status and great strength. In the Xianmi heavenly territory, there was no one who could be a match for Yao Jianyuan. No one in the Xianmi heavenly territory could threaten Yao Jianyuan unless it was a real expert from the Sky-Reaching place. But now, Yao Jianyuan had been beaten to a pulp by this show-off in front of them. Was this guy really an expert from the Sky-Reaching place? Thinking of this, the two of them were even more afraid. Mei Zian cupped his hands to Zhuowen and said, "Fellow Taoist, which force of the Sky-Reaching place do you come from?" Zhuowen, who had just finished showing off, wanted to continue to pretend to be profound. But when he heard Mei Zian's question, he was dumbfounded. He hadn't even been to the Sky-Reaching place. He didn't even know which forces were in the Sky-Reaching place, let alone which force he belonged to. But Zhuowen knew that he had to finish showing off, even if he had to hold back his tears. His gaze turned cold and deep as he coldly scrutinized Mei Zian and LV Yelyang. When the two of them felt their scalps tingle, he said indifferently, "You are not qualified for me to tell you who I am. Today, I came down from the Sky-Reaching place and wanted to go to the host region to have a look. But I found that the transmitting formation was sealed. That's not all. This idiot came and made a big fuss. He even threatened us and threatened to kill me. He said I was like an ant. I've always had a good temper, but this idiot insulted me. I couldn't stand it, so I taught him a lesson and let him broaden his horizons." Yao Jianyuan, who was being stepped on by Zhuowen, heard Zhuowen call him an idiot. He rolled his eyes to protest against Zhuowen's impudence. Of course, Yao Jianyuan's petty actions were noticed by Zhuowen. He also made Yao Jianyuan pay a small price. He trampled on Yao Jianyuan's eyes. Yao Jianyuan screamed in pain and didn't dare to open his eyes again. Seeing Yao Jianyuan's miserable state, LV Yelyang and Mei Zian's eyelids twitched. It was too humiliating for a Taoist master to be beaten like this. Of course, this made Mei Zian and LV Yelyang even more afraid of Zhuowen. Their strength was almost the same as Yao Jianyuan's. Now that Yao Jianyuan was in such a miserable state, even if they attacked, they might not end up well. So they didn't dare to attack. Moreover, the two of them had long regarded Zhuowen as an expert who had come down from the Sky-Reaching place. He must have a strong background. They couldn't afford to offend him. If they offended him, they would be finished. After Zhuowen taught Yao Jianyuan a lesson in front of everyone, the latter immediately became obedient and played dead. Chapter 34:24. Dumbfounded, Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang were very wary of Zhuowen. They spoke to Zhuowen courteously and cautiously, afraid of offending this ruthless person in front of them. Zhuowen's gaze deepened, and he looked like a lonely master. He said pretentiously, "Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to know my name?" As soon as this was said, everyone was stunned. This guy was too pretentious. He directly said that Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang did not have the right to know his name. These two were the Tao masters of the star battlefield, the strongest mid-stage heavenly master. They were the strongest in the Xianmi heavenly region. Normally, everyone would be extremely respectful and cautious towards these two people. Now, these two Tao masters had lowered themselves and asked Zhuowen for his name. He actually said that they did not have the right to know his name. This was too arrogant. Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang were speechless, and their expressions were ugly. If they had not seen Yao Jianyuan's miserable state, they would have exploded. Mei Zian forced a smile and said, "Since you are unwilling to reveal your name, we will not force you. However, Yao Jianyuan is the Tao master of the North and the representative of the star battlefield. Shouldn't you let him go?" Zhuowen looked at Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang and said, "I am not a troublemaker. The reason I beat this idiot up was because he tried to kill me first. Now that he has received the punishment he deserves, we are barely even." Yao Jianyuan, who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead, frowned slightly when he heard Zhuowen's words. However, he was cursing in his heart. "You were the one who attacked me first. I was just defending myself. You beat me up like this, as if you were wronged. I am so king wronged." Yao Jianyuan kept complaining in his heart, but he still pretended to be dead. He was really scared of Zhuowen. It was safer to pretend to be dead now. When Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang heard Zhuowen's words, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. They were really afraid that this ruthless person would go crazy and kill Yao Jianyuan. If Yao Jianyuan were to die, it would be a huge matter, and the northern space camp would be in chaos. The eastern space encampment was already chaotic enough. If the northern space encampment fell into chaos, as well, the entire Star Wars battlefield would be in chaos. By then, it would truly be over. Tan Xinghua had already fallen. If Yao Jianyuan also fell, then the Star Wars battlefield would really be in chaos. Therefore, the two of them would never allow Yao Jianyuan to die. After all, his death would have a great impact on the human race. "Then shouldn't you let brother Yao go, fellow Taoist?" Elvi Yelyang finally spoke. His tone was very polite. Zhuowen wasn't in a hurry. He said indifferently, "The reason why I had a conflict with this idiot was mainly because of this transmission array. I've already told you that I'm going to the host region to settle some matters. But this idiot insisted on stopping us, so I had no choice but to teach him a lesson. Now, I still have the same problem. If this problem can be solved, then what's wrong with returning this idiot to you?" Zhuowen's feet were still on Yao Jianyuan's body. He was very calm and wanted Elvi Yelyang and Mei Zian to solve the problem of the transmission array. Hearing this, Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang suddenly looked troubled. The problem of the transmission array. Mei Zian and Elvi Yelyang hesitated and stuttered. "What? Is there a problem?" Zhuowen raised his eyebrows and moved his right foot fiercely on Yao Jianyuan's body. Yao Jianyuan, who was pretending to be dead, grimaced in pain. He couldn't pretend anymore and began to scream. "No problem. Absolutely no problem." Yao Jianyuan grimaced, and immediately begged for mercy. He didn't want to argue about the transmission array anymore. He was afraid that if he continued to struggle, he would really be killed by Zhuowen, so he immediately compromised on this issue. LV Yeliang and Mei Zian saw that Yao Jianyuan had completely surrendered. They looked at each other and nodded. "We'll solve the problem of the transmission array for you. Now, I'll find you a formation Dao master to break this sealing power. This might take some time." "I don't have that much time," Zhuowen said coldly. As soon as he said this, LV Yeliang and Mei Zian's expressions turned ugly. Their gazes were gloomy. They felt that Zhuowen was forcing them. Mei Zian said awkwardly, "My friend, you're making things difficult for us. The sealing power around this transmission array is of heaven level. It needs to be broken by a heaven-level formation Dao master, and it's not something that can be broken in a short time. It's impossible for you to break this sealing power immediately." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "It's okay. I can break this sealing power. Just don't disturb me." With that, Zhuowen picked up Yao Jianyuan, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog, and walked toward the transmission array. At this moment, there was no one around the transmission array. Most of the cultivators had already left when Zhuowen and Yao Jianyuan were fighting. Although Zhuowen's voice was not loud, everyone heard him clearly. When they heard that Zhuowen was going to break the sealing power around the transmission array himself, they all had strange expressions on their faces. They had a full understanding of Zhuowen's strength. They knew that the former was very powerful, but they didn't believe that Zhuowen's formation Dao was that high. LV Yeliang and Mei Zian also had strange expressions on their faces. They didn't expect that Zhuowen was going to break the sealing power himself. Was he going to break the sealing power by force? Yao Jianyuan, who was in Zhuowen's hand, looked askance at Zhuowen and rolled his eyes at him. Obviously, this guy didn't believe that Zhuowen could break the sealing power. Zhuowen, on the other hand, directly punched Yao Jianyuan, causing Yao Jianyuan to scream miserably and almost faint. "My friend, shouldn't you let brother Yao go now?" Mei Zian asked in a low voice. "Don't worry. After I break the sealing power around the transmission array, I'll naturally let this idiot go," Zhuowen said casually. Zhuowen came to the front of the transmission array and walked around it, silently deducing in his heart. When he stopped, he already had an answer. Then he took out the beast bone formation disk from the macro world and threw it out, surrounding the transmission array. This guy really knows about formation Dao. LV Yeliang and Mei Zian both had strange expressions on their faces. When they saw Zhuowen pretending to break the sealing power, they secretly wondered if this guy was just putting on an act. The people around them had similar thoughts as LV Yeliang and Mei Zian. They didn't quite believe that Zhuowen really had the ability to break the formation. Zhuowen didn't care about what the others thought. He was concentrating on his deduction. When the beast bone disk array that was revolving around the teleportation array completely stopped rotating, a wave of energy ripples suddenly swept out in all directions. Then, the sealing power around the transmission array actually disappeared and was annihilated into nothingness. Chapter 34, 25. Bad news. This guy really broke the immortal grade seal around the teleportation formation, and he did it in less than 10 minutes. Mei Zian felt unwell all over. He was really shocked. It should be known that the Heaven Ascension Divine Master they had found in the Alchemy Array Dao domain had spent 10 days and 10 nights to set up such a powerful sealing force. However, this guy had managed to break the seal in less than 10 minutes. Did this not mean that this guy's Array Dao level was much higher than the immortal grade Array Dao Master they had found from the Alchemy Array Dao domain? Not only Mei Zian, But LV Yelyang, who was standing next to Mei Zian, was also stunned. His mouth was wide open, and he did not know what to say. As for the many cultivators in the space camp who were watching, they all became mutes. Their eyes were wide open as they stared blankly at the figure in front of the teleportation array that was as straight as a spear. Zhuowen looked calmly at the teleportation formation that had appeared in front of him. He had been studying the true record of alchemy arrays all the time and had inherited part of the legacy of the alchemy array celestial master. His alchemy array level was one of the highest in the universe. Zhuowen could tell at a glance that the seal around the teleportation formation was set up by an ordinary immortal grade array Dao master. It was not difficult for him to break it. "I'll return this idiot to you." Zhuowen picked up Yao Jianyuan, who was lying on the ground, and threw him to Mei Zian and LV Yelyang without hesitation. He stepped into the teleportation formation, took out the corresponding Heavenly Dao origin crystal, and activated the teleportation formation. White light surged, and Zhuowen disappeared from the teleportation formation. Not long after Zhuowen left the teleportation formation, the cultivators in the eastern camp were in an uproar. They rushed toward the teleportation formation, took out their Heavenly Dao origin crystals, and planned to teleport away from the eastern camp. They were all disciples of the major sects in the host region. So how could they possibly ignore such a huge incident and stay in the eastern camp? For a moment, the area around the teleportation formation was bustling. Many cultivators were rushing to teleport away, and white light kept flashing. Mei Zian took over the half-dead Yao Jianyuan and stopped LV Yelyang, who was about to give chase. "Brother Lu, you are no match for this person. For this person to be able to beat Brother Yao to such an extent, I'm afraid that he's at least a late-stage powerhouse of the Heavenly Master Realm. Furthermore, this person's array Dao level is even more unfathomable. His background must be very great. He's not an existence we can provoke." Mei Zian warned LV Yelyang. Hearing this, LV Yelyang fell silent. He glanced at Yao Jianyuan, who was supported by Mei Zian, and said, "Let's send Brother Yao back first." "Are we still going to stop the teleportation array?" LV Yelyang asked with a dark expression as he looked at the cultivators gathered around the teleportation array. Mei Zian shook his head and said, "Without the sealing power, we can't stop these people. Furthermore, we have already abided by our agreement with Sakyamuni. The expert who came down from the heaven accessing place is an unpredictable variable. He's a factor that we can't fight against. Anyway, we've done our best. Even if the naughty Shiva wants to blame us, they can't blame us." LV Yelyang nodded. He glanced at the scene that was almost out of control at the teleportation array and did not stop it. Instead, he and Mei Zian took Yao Jianyuan and left the Eastern Starry Sky camp. Zhuowen appeared in an area full of meteorites. He stood on a huge floating rock fragment. He immediately took out his jade communication charm and sent a message to his father, Long Xiaotian, mother, Feng Xiao, and Lu Hantian. At present, the three of them were in charge of Ryuka, since most of the forces in the host region had been conquered by the 10 Ultimate Incorp sect, and were basically used as nourishment for the flower of the dead. Zhuowen was a little worried that Ryuka might have been affected as well. The Jade communication charm's transmission range was not far. There was also a powerful barrier between the star battlefield and the Xianmi heavenly domain, so he could not communicate with the cultivators in the Xianmi heavenly domain from the star battlefield. Therefore, the moment he was teleported to the Xianmi heavenly domain, he immediately sent a message to Long Xiaotian and the others. Soon, Zhuowen received a response from Long Xiaotian. Zhuowen saw that Long Xiaotian had responded and let out a sigh of relief. Since Long Xiaotian had responded, It at least meant that Long Xiaotian was safe and sound. However, after Zhuowen read the message, his eyes suddenly turned blood-red and cold, and a flame of anger rose in his heart. Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, Earth Spirit Society. How dare you have designs on Ryuka? You must be tired of living. Zhuowen's eyes widened, and he took out the space-time roulette and flew towards the Ryuka region. When he had first settled the Ryuka on the old site of the Huangji family, he had given the Ryuka resources that allowed the Ryuka to develop very quickly. They had quickly gained a foothold on the old site of the Huangji family and become a new Dao Palace-level faction. With the help of the Lightning God's Garden, the Ryuka was like the sun in the sky in that region. Many nearby Dao Palace-level factions were very wary of the Ryuka, and they intimidated everyone. Ryuka's rapid development and reputation gradually rose. In that region, many Dao Palace-level factions looked to the Ryuka as their leader. None of the factions doubted that as long as the Dragon Clan was given enough time, or rather, as long as the Dragon Clan could produce a mighty one who had reached the Heavenly Master level, they would immediately be able to leap into the ranks of the Holy Xi Palace. Just as the Ryuka was developing rapidly, the Yin Corps sect of the 10 Ultimates launched an indiscriminate attack on the entire host region. The Yin Corps sect of the 10 Ultimates breached the Zhui Ri Temple in a short period of time. Most of the disciples and elders of the Zhui Ri Temple were killed, captured, and turned into nutrients for the flower of the dead. In the end, they all died painfully. After breaching the Zhui Ri Temple, the Yin Corps sect of the 10 Ultimates breached the mountain gates of the Fallen Star Mountain and the Void Palace. The sect master of the Scarlet Mountain Villa had joined forces with the sect masters of the Fallen Star Mountain and the Void Palace, but he had been severely injured by Sakyamuni. He had fled back to the Scarlet Mountain Villa, where he had activated the protective array, and holed up in the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Originally, Sakyamuni had planned to completely destroy the Scarlet Mountain Villa after breaching the Fallen Star Mountain and the Void Palace. However, the Eastern Sect Master, Tan Xinghua, had received a request for help from the Scarlet Mountain Villa's Sect Master. He had come to the host region to suppress Sakyamuni, and he had engaged in an ultimate battle with Sakyamuni in the starry sky. This battle had shaken the entire host region, and it had been an extraordinary battle that had attracted the attention of tens of thousands of people. The two of them had battled for 49 days, and they had caused many planets to explode and star regions to collapse. In the end, Tan Xinghua had been beheaded by Sakyamuni. After this battle, Sakyamuni's name had spread throughout the Xian Mi Sky region. Chapter 3426. Ryuka's crisis. Out of the 5 Dao Palace forces in the host region, 3 of them were wiped out in an instant. The Scarlet Mountain Manor, which was known as the most powerful Dao Palace force in the host region, was forced to activate their protective array. They could only hole up in a corner, not daring to come out. It had to be said that the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sex battle record was too glorious and terrifying. It had intimidated too many factions. Everyone knew that the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect was so powerful mainly because of Sakyamuni. It was Sakyamuni who had developed the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect to such terrifying heights. Because of this, many Dao Palaces and Dao Palaces in the host region had attached themselves to the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect, hoping to be protected by the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect and avoid being wiped out. The 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect was naturally happy to accept these subordinate factions. They even allowed these subordinate factions to help the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect invade other factions that opposed the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect. The Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were rather famous Dao Palaces in the host region. They were also 3 of the Dao Palaces in the host region that had attached themselves to the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect. These 3 factions had joined forces to attack the Ryuka's base. From Long Xiaotian's reply, Zhuowen knew that the Ryuka were having a hard time resisting the combined forces of these three factions. Lu Hantian, Woody, and a large number of Ryuka's top experts had suffered serious injuries in this battle. Even Long Xiaotian and his mother, Feng Xiao, had suffered serious injuries. What angered Zhuowen even more was that his grandfather, Long Xiangding, had been ambushed by a spy and was on the verge of death. Many of the Ryuka's alchemists were powerless to save him, and he was now in a coma. Furthermore, Ryuka was already in a precarious situation under the combined attacks of the three great powers. If it weren't for the help of the creation-level formation that Zhuowen had left behind, Ryuka would have been destroyed a long time ago. Fortunately, the forces attacking Ryuka this time were only at the level of 3 Dao palaces, and the strongest among them were only at the Genesis level. If the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect had attacked, the Genesis level formation of Ryuka would not have been able to hold on, and Ryuka would have been destroyed in an instant. But even so, Ryuka is almost at the end of its rope. In Long Xiaotian's reply, the former repeatedly warned Zhuowen not to come back and to stay as far away from the host region as possible. Zhuowen did not reply to Long Xiaotian's message. Instead, he rushed back to Ryuka as soon as possible. With his current strength, he was already standing at the pinnacle of this starry sky. No matter how strong Sakura was, Zhuowen didn't think that Sakura's speed of progress could surpass his, and that he would be his opponent. After resolving the crisis in Ryuka, Zhuowen went straight to the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect to kill Sakyamuni. He knew that Sakyamuni had some special ability that allowed him to be reborn from a single drop of blood. This time, not only would he destroy Sakyamuni's soul, but he would also destroy his physical body. He would completely wipe out Sakyamuni's existence from this world. In the conference hall of Ryuka's base, Long Xiaotian was pacing back and forth, his eyes full of anxiety. The conference hall was very large. Other than Long Xiaotian, Feng Xiao, Lu Hantian, Woody, and other Ryuka's higher-ups were all present. Whether it was Long Xiaotian, Lu Hantian, or the others, their breathing was weak, their faces pale, and some of them even had blood on them. I didn't expect to return to Xian, Mi Celestial region at this time. What a bad time to come back. Long Xiaotian's face was full of anxiety. Feng Xiao stopped Long Xiaotian and said anxiously, "Xiaotian, have you sent Winner a message? Tell him not to come, to leave the host region, and go to a safer precept domain. This is a dangerous place, and it's not a place he can come." Long Xiaotian sighed softly. "I have, but you know Winner's character. He knows the situation in the host region and the danger our Ryuka is in. Even if he knows that it's a dead end, he won't just sit back and do nothing. He will definitely come." Feng Xiao was so anxious that she was about to cry. She was Zhuowen's mother and knew Zhuowen better than anyone else. Just as Long Xiaotian said, Zhuowen would definitely not abandon Ryuka. When Zhuowen had settled them in the Huangji family's base and left Ryuka to explore alone, his cultivation was not even at the level of a creator. They knew that Zhuowen was very talented, but even if he had obtained some fortuitous opportunities, his cultivation was only at the level of a creator. With just this level of cultivation, returning to the Long family was simply courting death. Not to mention the fact that the Jade Dock Beast King Gate and Earth Spirit Society had several creators. Even if Zhuowen could help Ryuka fend off the attacks of these three forces, the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect had many powerful cultivators. Especially after obtaining the Dead Man's Flower, which was a heaven-defying elixir, the number of elites in the In Corpse sect of the 10 Ultimates had increased rapidly over the years. Could Zhuowen defeat such a force? Given Zhuowen's character, he will definitely come here without hesitation. What we can do now is to hold on a little longer, Zhuowen is not an impulsive person, and he won't just charge in like this. As long as we hold on, Zhuowen may find a way to sneak in. I think that when the time comes, we can rely on Zhuowen's array formation skills to reposition the base's array formation. Then, we will have a chance to fight back. Lu Hantian stood up. His eyes flashed as he analyzed the situation for everyone. Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They also felt that Lu Hantian's idea was the most practical. Zhuowen would definitely come. What they needed to think now was to wait for Zhuowen to arrive and find a better way to protect Zhuowen. Suddenly, a cultivator hurriedly ran into the meeting hall and shouted in a trembling voice, "Patriarch, something bad has happened. The base's array formation can't hold on for much longer." The people who were originally discussing in the conference hall immediately froze after hearing this sentence. Their eyes were all filled with disbelief. How is that possible? The base's array formation is at the pinnacle of creation level. It is impossible for Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society to break it in such a short time. Long Xiaotian said in shock. The cultivator knelt on one knee and said, "The immortal masters of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance are here. They are here to help Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society break our base's array formation." What? The Pillaray Immortal Alliance is also interfering? Our Ryuka has no enmity with the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. Why would they help Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society go against our Ryuka? Long Xiaotian stared in disbelief. "Xiaotian, let's go out and take a look. If the base's array formation can't hold on, we can only fight with our backs against the wall." Feng Xiao immediately calmed down and said in a low voice. Long Xiaotian also calmed down and said in a low voice, "Let's go out. Hantian, go and arrange people. If the base's array formation is really broken, then we will fight." Chapter 34:27. Breaking through. When Long Xiaotian and the rest walked out of the conference hall, they immediately noticed a youth in a long robe floating above the Ryuka base's large array. His eyes were filled with arrogance. At this moment, the youth was surrounded by array flags. His hands were forming seals as he tried to break the Ryuka base's large array. Under the attack of the long-robed young man, the Long family's encampment's grand array actually started to ripple and spread towards the surroundings. When Long Xiaotian and the others saw the long-robed young man, their expressions changed slightly. This youth was no stranger to them. It's the current alliance leader of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance, Zhu Wenlin. This guy actually came to help break our base's large array. Feng Xiao looked at Zhu Wenlin with an unfriendly gaze. Zhu Wenlin wasn't from the Eastern Dao region. He was a young pill array genius sent by the Pill Array Dao region. Speaking of which, Zhu Wenlin had been brought here by Bu Yangrong. Bu Yangrong had come from the Pill Array Dao domain to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance of the host region, mainly to assess whether Zhuo Wen had the qualifications to become the alliance head of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The result of the test was that Zhuo Wen's pill formation ability was above Zhu Wenlin's, but Bu Yangrong went back on his word and took away Zhuo Wen's position of alliance chief without permission, giving the alliance chief to Zhu Wenlin. Zhuo Wen had never wanted to become the alliance leader. The reason he had taken over the position was because the Pill Array Immortal Alliance members had kicked up a fuss. After Bu Yangrong and Zhu Wenlin had arrived, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance members had changed their attitudes and supported Zhu Wenlin. Therefore, even though Zhuo Wen's pill array skills were above Zhu Wenlin's, he wasn't in the mood to continue being the alliance leader. After he had resigned from the alliance leader position, he had gone to the Star Wars battlefield. He hadn't expected that he would take so long to return. After Zhuowen's return, the Eastern Dao region had undergone a huge upheaval. All of this was something that Zhuowen hadn't expected. And ever since Zhu Wenlin lost to Zhuowen in the alchemy battle, it could be said that he had always harbored hatred towards Zhuowen in his heart. All these years, he had been inquiring about Zhuowen's whereabouts. Once he found out about Zhuowen, Zhu Wenlin would contact many experts to surround and annihilate Zhuowen. Only by thoroughly killing Zhuowen could he resolve the hatred in his heart. Unfortunately, after so many years, Zhu Wenlin hadn't found any traces of Zhuowen. It was as if Zhuowen had vanished into thin air after the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance's alliance, Pill-Immortal Alliance of Zhu Wenlin's Yang. The Immortal Alliance, Immortal Alliances, the Tao Immortal Alliance, Immortal Alliance Alliances, Immortals, Immortal Alliance of Immortal Alliance, Immon Alliance, Immortals Immortals Alliance, Immortal Immortal Alliance, Immortal Formation Array Tao Immortals. Zhu Wenlin was a genius of the Alchemy Array Tao domain. His status in the Alchemy Array Tao domain wasn't low. Establishing a relationship with such a promising Alchemy Array genius would only be beneficial to Sakyamuni. Furthermore, Zhu Wenlin had contributed a lot to the cultivation of the Dead Man Flower. When Zhu Wenlin had found out that Zhuowen was a Ryuka disciple, he had rushed over to Ryuka without stopping to help the Jasper Dock Beast King Gate and Earth Spirit Society break the Ryuka encampment's grand array. Zhu Wenlin's request was that after breaking through the Ryuka encampment, he had to bring all the Ryuka's relatives back to the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance. Zhu Wenlin's idea was that since he couldn't find Zhuowen, he would vent all his hatred on Zhuowen's relatives. When Zhuowen returned in the future and found out that his relatives had died in his hands, he would probably be in great pain and would take the initiative to find him. At that time, it would be the time of Zhuowen's death. He would invite many experts to encircle and annihilate Zhuowen. Zhu Wenlin's hands quickly formed seals, and the encampment's array shook more and more violently. Ripples of array Tao spread out, like ripples on the surface of a lake, surging outwards. It looked very dazzling and powerful. Behind Zhu Wenlin was a dense army. These armies were divided into 3 camps. They were the Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society. And in front of each of the 3 armies, there was a figure with a vast aura. These 3 figures were the Jasper Dock Sect Master Inguyun, the Beast King Gate's Sect Master Violent Jade Beast, and the Earth Spirit Society's Sect Master Gong Zifen. The 3 of them stood quietly in front of the army. Their eyes flickered as they watched Zhu Wenlin wave the array flag to break the array. It's really easy to have such a divine array master. We don't even need to use a single soldier to break that troublesome array. Jasper Dock's Sect Master Inguyun laughed. Inguyun looked to be in her 30s. Her skin was whiter than snow, and she had the charm of a mature woman. Her figure was extremely hot, and her every move was filled with charm. Yes, although our sect also has a divine array master, compared to Alliance Master Zhu, they are not even a little bit inferior. Beast King Gates, Sect Master Violent Jade Beast side. In addition, Alliance Master Zhu comes from the mysterious Alchemy Array Tao domain. His origin is not simple. Otherwise, Sakyamuni's sect master wouldn't have tried to build a relationship with Alliance Master Zhu. Earth Spirit Society's sect Master Gong Zifen echoed. The 3 of them were in awe of Zhu Wenlin. They all wanted to build a good relationship with Zhu Wenlin. At this moment, Zhu Wenlin's gaze became more and more arrogant. He even mocked. This is the array set up by Zhuowen? Haha, what a piece of trash. He's as trash as Zhuowen. If I want to break it, it'll be a piece of cake. Zhu Wenlin continued to slander Zhuowen as he broke the array. His words were very unpleasant. The Ryuka people in the array were furious when they heard Zhu Wenlin insult Zhuowen. They felt that Zhu Wenlin had gone too far. Long Xiaotian and the others were also very angry. Feng Xiao even retorted, "You're belittling when like this. When you lost to in the alchemy battle of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, you're far inferior to one Isn't that even worse?" Zhu Wenlin, who was originally breaking the array, was furious when he heard Feng Xiao mention the past. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he let out a beast-like roar. The loss of the alchemy battle had always been a pain in Zhu Wenlin's heart. It was also his reverse scale. Now that Feng Xiao mentioned it, Zhu Wenlin was so angry that he almost lost his mind. "Bitch, just you wait. After I break this array, I'll be the first to kill you. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. Instead, I'll torture you slowly until you're dead." Zhu Wenlin roared angrily, and his actions became even more fierce and swift. The encampment's grand array rippled violently, and numerous cracks appeared on it. It was obvious that the grand array wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. The Ryuka people in the array were all nervous. Crack! When Zhu Wenlin threw down the last array flag, the encampment's grand array completely shattered into countless transparent fragments that scattered in all directions. Kill. Chapter 34-28. Tails the army descends. When the Ryuka base was completely destroyed, roars of war rang out like thunder, deafening to the ears. The joint army of Jasper Dock, Beast King Sect, and Earth Emanations Association appeared in the sky. Like dark clouds, they shrouded the entire Long family's encampment in shadows. "You Ryuka bastards, you're dead meat." Zhu Wenlin had his hands behind his back as he hovered in midair, looking down at the Ryuka base. His mocking laughter filled the air above the Ryuka base. Long Xiaotian and the rest of the upper echelons were shocked. "Hantian, are you ready?" Long Xiaotian said to Lu Hantian with a serious look in his eyes. At this moment, Lu Hantian was holding a spear and wearing golden armor. Behind him was the Ryuka army. "Patriarch, we're ready." Lu Hantian nodded at Long Xiaotian, then raised his spear and shouted, "Kill! Those who invade the Ryuka will be killed without mercy. Kill! Kill!" The Ryuka army roared like a tidal wave, then, led by Lu Hantian, charged into the sky and clashed with the combined forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society. The two armies clashed, and the air was thick with blood. Blades flashed and swords flashed. It was a magnificent sight. However, the Ryuka army was only half the size of the Allied army. The moment they clashed, the Ryuka army was suppressed. However, the Ryuka army was full of vigor and did not fear death. They fought with their lives on the line. Although they were suppressed, it would not be so easy for the Allied army to defeat the Ryuka army. Lu Hantian rushed to the front and brandished the long spear in his hand. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. His imposing manner was vast and mighty. Every spear attack was accompanied by splashes of blood. Lu Hantian was very powerful. It was as if he had entered an unstoppable realm. Every spear strike was able to kill dozens of cultivators. Blood splattered everywhere. "Oh, you're Lu Hantian, the Ryuka expert second only to Long Xiaotian, right? Not bad. You're already a mid-stage creator. Unfortunately, you're going to die today, and you're going to die by my hands." A sinister voice suddenly sounded from Lu Hantian's right translation. Accompanying this sinister voice was a terrifying blast of energy. Its target was the back of Lu Hantian's head. Lu Hantian's eyes narrowed when he felt the terrifying blast of energy behind him. He let out a low roar and twisted his body. He instantly turned around and held his spear in front of him to protect himself. He could feel that the owner of the voice behind him was attacking very quickly. He could not retaliate and could only passively defend. Bam! The terrifying attack fiercely smashed onto the long spear that Lu Hantian was holding, and a formidable power burst out. The surrounding space started to collapse and collapse. Lu Hantian groaned and was involuntarily sent flying. He only managed to stabilize himself after flying back several thousand meters. He looked at the figure standing in front of him. This was a middle-aged man whose entire body was filled with a berserk aura. His upper body was bare, and his firm muscles were exposed to the air like coiling dragons. Just by looking at him, he looked like a wild beast that had gone berserk. Lu Hantian recognized this middle-aged man. This person was the Beast King Gate's sect master, the violent Jade Beast. It was said that this person's physical body was very strong and was not weaker than the powerful experts of the primitive heaven realm. Lu Hantian's eyes were filled with fear. He knew that this violent Jade Beast's cultivation was much higher than his. He was a peak creator. Oh, your reaction is not bad. You were actually able to block my attack. Ordinary god of creation intermediate stage cultivators would be severely injured if they were hit by my attack. The violent Jade Beast raised his eyebrows, but his gaze fell on Lu Hantian's gilded battle armor. He was not stupid. He naturally saw that the reason why Lu Hantian was not seriously injured was mainly because of the gilded battle armor on his body. Without a doubt, this gilded battle armor was a high-grade divine artifact. Moreover, it was a defensive divine artifact. This was very rare. The violent Jade Beast sneered. Lu Hantian, take the initiative to hand over your gilded battle armor, and I'll give you a quick death. I'll let you die less painfully. Lu Hantian took a deep breath. He had obtained this gilded battle armor by chance. It was a peak creator divine artifact. With this gilded battle armor, although his cultivation was only at the mid-stage of the creator stage, it was enough to fight against a peak creator. He snorted coldly and said, "It's still unknown who will win and who will lose. You want me to hand over my battle armor? I think water has entered your brain." As he spoke, Lu Hantian stomped his right foot and rushed toward the violent Jade Beast like an arrow. "Ha ha! You refuse a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You're courting death." The violent Jade Beast's face turned cold. He unleashed his aura, and his entire body emitted a fierce blood aura. He was like a wild beast, unparalleled in the world. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, Lu Hantian and the violent Jade Beast collided fiercely. The violent Jade Beast held a scimitar in its hand, and saber light flowed around its body. It was very terrifying. However, Lu Hantian did not retreat. His spear was like a dragon, and every spear could blast out a terrifying spear shadow. The saber light and spear shadow collided, and a terrifying power burst out. It spread in all directions, forming one terrifying wave after another in the void. It had to be said that the violent Jade Beast's strength was indeed above Lu Hantian's. Lu Hantian was completely suppressed, and his face was pale. However, the gilded battle armor on Lu Hantian's body was very extraordinary. It emitted bursts of golden light, blocking most of the violent Jade Beast's attacks every time. But even so, Lu Hantian was still severely suppressed by Yi Shiwen. After all, the violent Jade Beast was the sect leader of a Dao Palace level force. Although its cultivation was at the peak of the creator stage, its battle prowess was even more terrifying than ordinary peak creators. For Lu Hantian to be able to tangle with the violent Jade Beast and not be defeated was already very impressive. When Lu Hantian was attacked by the violent Jade Beast, the sect leader of Jasper Dock, In Guyun, and the Earth Spirit Society's sect leader, Gong Zifen, went to find Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao, respectively. As for the other creators of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society, they had their eyes on the other higher-ups of Ryuka. Long Xiaotian, it's said that you're the strongest person in Ryuka. However, your cultivation is only at the late stage of the creator stage. I'm afraid you don't live up to your name. Today, I, Gong Zifen, will step on you and trample on you wantonly. The Earth Spirit Society's sect leader, Gong Zifen, appeared in front of Long Xiaotian like a ghost and shot a ray of light at Long Xiaotian. It's not certain who will be trampled on today. Long Xiaotian snorted coldly. He took out a saber and fought with Gong Zifen. Terrifying energy fluctuations exploded, and a terrifying mushroom cloud spread out in the sky above Ryuka. This was a phenomenon caused by the collision of powerful energy. Chapter 34:29. Crisis Feng Xiao saw that Long Xiaotian was being held back by Gong Zifen, and her eyes turned cold. She wanted to help Long Xiaotian, but she was stopped by a burst of bell-like laughter. In front of Feng Xiao, at some unknown time, a charming figure had blocked her way, and her bell-like laughter continued to ring out. "Get out of my way," Feng Xiao said coldly. The beautiful figure who blocked Feng Xiao's path was the sect master of Jade Cove, In Guyun. In Guyun walked slowly towards Feng Xiao with her enchanting cat-like steps, and said with a smile, "Get out of my way? Dream on, but your opponent is me. If you don't get serious, I can't guarantee that I won't be merciful and kill you. Of course, for a beauty like you, I won't let you die a horrible death. I'll let you die a beautiful death," In Guyun said, and disappeared from where she was, and like a ghost, she appeared behind Feng Xiao, and clawed at Feng Xiao's neck. It was soundless, but it flashed with a penetrating sharpness in the air. If this claw hit, Feng Xiao's head would be separated from her body. Feng Xiao's body burst into flames, and a thick fire shield formed behind her, blocking In Guyun's sneak attack. Then, Feng Xiao's delicate body turned slightly, and she brazenly attacked. Flames soared into the sky, spreading across the horizon, and it looked as if the entire sky was burning. In Guyun was not simple either, and her claws formed an extremely slender energy, and she waved it out fiercely. Suddenly, the air was filled with a dense array of energy blades, blocking the flames that filled the sky. At this moment, the entire Ryuka camp was in chaos, and the army was wantonly killing and destroying everything. Flames soared into the sky, and the magnificent buildings collapsed into ruins. In a short time, the number of Ryuka soldiers decreased, and corpses fell from the sky, forming a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Many of the Ryuka's higher-ups also began to fall. The Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society had more creator-level experts than the Ryuka, and the Ryuka's upper echelons were no match for them. As time passed, the upper echelons of the Ryuka would be wiped out, and the Ryuka would be wiped out from the face of the earth. While the two armies were fighting, Zhu Wenlin took out array flags and formed hand seals, setting up a killing array around the Ryuka camp. Humph! This Ryuka had some strength to be able to hold out against the combined forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society. But soon, Ryuka will fall. Hee. Zhu Wenlin sneered, and threw out the last array flag. Suddenly, a terrifying killing intent surged within the Ryuka camp. A storm of killing intent swept out towards the Ryuka army, but the combined forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were not affected at all. It was obvious that someone had set up a killing array around the Ryuka camp, and it was specifically targeted at the Ryuka camp. Lu Hantian, Long Xiaotian, and the rest saw this scene, and their faces changed drastically. Seeing the Ryuka army screaming in pain and agony, their eyes turned red. They really wanted to save these Long family clansmen, but they were entangled and ruthlessly suppressed. They couldn't even protect themselves, let alone save these Long family clansmen. Zhu Wenlin couldn't help but laugh heartily when he saw the Long family's army retreating step by step under the effects of the killing formation. Then, Zhu Wenlin's gaze locked onto Feng Xiao, who was being suppressed by Yin Guyun. "Bitch, how dare you offend me? Now, I'll let you know the consequences of offending me." Zhu Wenlin's eyes flashed fiercely, and he threw out the array flag in his hand. Instantly, 3 storms of killing intent rushed towards Feng Xiao. Jasper Doc Sect Master Yin Guyun was very powerful, and she was also a peak creator. Feng Xiao's cultivation was similar to Lu Hantian's, and she was only a mid-stage creator. In the battle with Yin Guyun, Feng Xiao was being suppressed very badly. Her face was pale, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. If not for the fact that Feng Xiao was supported by the peak creator divine weapon that Zhuowen had left for her, she would have been defeated already. "Puchi!" Feng Xiao groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood, and she was forced to retreat. Yin Guyun also took a few steps back, and she looked at Feng Xiao with surprise. She didn't think that Feng Xiao would be able to last for so long. She looked at the bronze mirror in Feng Xiao's hand, and a trace of greed appeared in her eyes. She knew that Feng Xiao was only able to last until now because of this bronze mirror. This bronze mirror was definitely a peak creator divine weapon. Even she didn't have a divine weapon of this level. If she could obtain it, her battle prowess would definitely increase by a large margin. Just as Yin Guyun was about to attack again, she sensed 3 storms of killing intent behind her. Whoosh! The 3 storms of killing intent were extremely fast, and they swept past Yin Guyun and instantly blasted onto Feng Xiao's body. Feng Xiao's expression changed slightly, and she summoned her bronze mirror to barely block the 3 storms of killing intent. However, she was still injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, she was forced to retreat again and again under the powerful force of the storms of killing intent. At this moment, Yin Guyun attacked. She appeared behind Feng Xiao, like a ghost, and her jade-like hand blasted out violently, landing on Feng Xiao's back. Puchi! Feng Xiao could only barely block the storms of killing intent, and now she didn't have the strength to resist Yin Guyun. She was hit head-on, and blood spurted out. Her face was unbelievably pale, and she fell heavily to the ground. The bronze mirror in Feng Xiao's hand flew out of her hand. Yin Guyun stared straight at the bronze mirror. She didn't continue to chase after Feng Xiao, but instead flew towards the bronze mirror. Feng Xiao fell to the ground, and her whole body was in pain. It was as if all the bones in her body were broken, and she couldn't move. Feng Xiao saw Yin Guyun chase after the bronze mirror and didn't continue to attack her, and she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But soon, Feng Xiao's expression changed. She sensed a terrifying killing intent that she had never felt before. She turned her head and saw Zhu Wenlin slowly walking towards her, his face filled with undisguised killing intent. Feng Xiao struggled to get up, but unfortunately, her injuries were too severe, and she couldn't get up at all. She could only watch as Zhu Wenlin approached. Zhu Wenlin also knew that Feng Xiao's injuries were not light, so he was not in a hurry and slowly walked over. "Bitch, this is what you get for angering me. I heard that you are the birth mother of that bastard Zhuowen. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately, but I will slowly torture you to death. I will return all the insults that bastard Zhuowen gave me to you, and I will pay you back double." Zhu Wenlin thought of Zhuowen, and his face almost distorted, ferocious and terrifying. "Xiao, Long Xiaotian, who was fighting with Gong Zifen, saw the seriously injured Feng Xiao lying on the ground, and Zhu Wenlin, who was constantly approaching Feng Xiao. Long Xiaotian's face changed. He knew that Feng Xiao had angered Zhu Wenlin with a sentence before. If Feng Xiao fell into Zhu Wenlin's hands, she would die without a doubt. Thinking of this, Long Xiaotian's heart was full of anxiety. He roared, wanting to repel Gong Zifen and rescue Feng Xiao. Chapter 34:30. Solemn and stirring Long Xiaotian roared angrily, seeing Zhu Wenlin approach Feng Xiao. He couldn't wait to rush to Feng Xiao's side. However, Gong Zifen wouldn't let Long Xiaotian succeed. He sneered and even provoked Long Xiaotian with words. Die! Long Xiaotian roared. The blood in his body suddenly exploded as if it was burning, and his aura increased by hundreds and thousands. Long Xiaotian slashed out with his saber. Instantly, the saber light exploded like a waterfall. Gong Zifen, who originally had a mocking expression, felt the terrifying saber light in front of him, and his expression finally changed. Gong Zifen raised the divine weapon in his hand, wanting to block Long Xiaotian's desperate attack. However, he soon discovered that Long Xiaotian's saber was too terrifying. He groaned and involuntarily flew backward, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Long Xiaotian's expression was even worse. The moment he repelled Gong Zifen, he rushed toward Feng Xiao with bloodshot eyes. Is this guy crazy? He's actually burning his blood essence without any regard for his life. Isn't he afraid of death? After Gong Zifen was repelled, he looked at Long Xiaotian's back with an extremely gloomy expression and chased after him. In that instant just now, Long Xiaotian had indeed burned most of his blood essence. His strength instantly soared to the peak of the God of Creation stage, and his strength was even more terrifying than Gong Zifen's. Of course, Long Xiaotian had to pay a great price for squandering his blood essence like this. After this, his cultivation base would drop. Moreover, if he continued to burn his blood essence, his life might even be in danger. After all, Long Xiaotian wasn't burning a small part of his blood essence, but a large part of it. He was completely disregarding his life. Zhu Wenlin was already close to Feng Xiao. A cruel smile appeared on his face, but soon the smile on his face froze. Zhu Wenlin suddenly raised his head. He saw Long Xiaotian rushing over without any regard for his life, and his eyes narrowed with fear. This guy is really crazy. He's burning his blood essence without any regard for his life. Zhu Wenlin snorted coldly and took out the array flag. Instantly, the surrounding killing array was activated, gathering all the killing intent in front of Zhu Wenlin. Then, it suddenly shot out and blasted toward Long Xiaotian. Long Xiaotian, Long Xiaotian, and Long Xiaotian's sword art, the sword god of creation. The intense saber light was too terrifying. It actually broke through the storm of killing intent one after another. Zhu Wenlin's expression changed. He was a little surprised by Long Xiaotian's current strength. He was a little flustered and involuntarily took a few steps back. Yin Guyun, come and help me block this person's Guyun. Zhu Wenlin hurriedly urged Yin Guyun, who had just obtained the bronze mirror and was studying it. Yin Guyun was helpless. She naturally couldn't ignore Zhu Wenlin. After all, this person's background was not ordinary, and he had a good relationship with Sakyamuni. She didn't dare to offend this person. Yin Guyun's movements were very fast. Her charming body flickered in the air like a ghost, and in an instant she appeared above Zhu Wenlin. Her hands formed into claws, and at the tips of her slender fingers, transparent and sharp claws formed from chi energy. At this moment, Long Xiaotian had already broken through the air. He raised the sword god of death above his head and fiercely slashed down. The sword light poured down like lightning. Nguyen was not to be outdone. She blasted out with her claws, and a powerful energy burst out, forming a huge shadow of a beast claw. It was mighty and golden. It was as if this beast claw was holding the sun. Boom! The terrifying saber light broke through the void and heavily blasted on the rising beast claw. Suddenly, the saber light and the golden light exploded, erupting with earth-shattering aftershock ripples. The surrounding space directly turned into nothingness and ceased to exist. Kacha! The saber light was too sharp. It directly broke through the beast claw and tore it into pieces, scattering into countless fragments. Puchi! Nguyun's face changed. The powerful aftershock burst out and blasted her chest, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood. She covered her chest and kept retreating. This guy, how much blood essence did he burn to be so powerful? Nguyun exclaimed. Zhu Wenlin's face was gloomy. He took out several array flags, and in an instant the surrounding killing array changed. The terrifying killing intent condensed into dozens of meters-long blood-red blades, and they all blasted towards Long Xiaotian. The moment these blood-red blades fell on Long Xiaotian's body, they all exploded, and a bloody mist swept out. The power was great. Even the unstoppable Long Xiaotian, who had burned his blood essence, was stopped when these blades exploded. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became very pale. However, Long Xiaotian roared to the sky and burned his blood essence again. The aura on his body rose again, and he forcibly resisted the countless exploding blades. Whether it was Zhu Wenlin or Nguyun, looking at the fearless Long Xiaotian in front of them, they felt their hair stand on end. It had to be said that Long Xiaotian was really ruthless. Not only did he hate others, but he was also ruthless to himself. After withstanding the blades, Long Xiaotian's cold gaze fell on Zhu Wenlin. He suddenly descended, and the sword in his hand was pointed at Zhu Wenlin's heart. Zhu Wenlin was frightened. His face was pale, and he kept retreating. He quickly pointed at Long Xiaotian and said to Nguyun, "Quick! Stop him!" Nguyun was also retreating. The Long Xiaotian at this moment was too terrifying. She didn't dare to take the initiative to block. Sect Master Yin, you and I will stop this person together. He keeps burning his blood essence, and he is already at the end of his life. There is no need to be afraid of him. At this moment, Gong Zifen had already arrived. He took out the divine weapon in his hand and attacked Long Xiaotian. Hearing this, Nguyun's beautiful eyes flickered. In the end, she decisively made her move. Nguyun's jade-like hands grabbed at the void, and her hands turned into claws and attacked Long Xiaotian. Nguyun and Gong Zifen joined forces, and their power was strong. They actually blocked Long Xiaotian's terrifying attack. Zhu Wenlin saw that Long Xiaotian was blocked, and only then did he feel relieved. He was a little scared now, and he didn't dare to touch Feng Xiao. He wanted to wait until Long Xiaotian was completely killed by Nguyun and Gong Zifen, and then he would make a move on Feng Xiao. He was really a little afraid that Long Xiaotian would go crazy and break through the joint forces of Gong Zifen and Nguyun and rush towards him. Xiaotian, Feng Xiao looked at Long Xiaotian, who was blocked by Gong Zifen and Nguyun. Especially when she saw Long Xiaotian's increasingly pale face, her tears fell like rain. She could see that Long Xiaotian had burned too much blood essence, and his aura was getting weaker and weaker. When the time came, Long Xiaotian would really die. Puchi, Gong Zifen, and Nguyun broke through Long Xiaotian's defense and smashed Long Xiaotian's chest. Long Xiaotian spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed onto the ground. His body twitched, and his consciousness was not light. His aura was also very weak. Gong Zifen and In Guyun didn't continue to attack. They just looked at Long Xiaotian with contempt. They could tell that Long Xiaotian had burned too much of his blood essence, and there were already side effects. In addition to the injuries on his body, there were also side effects. Chapter 34-31. Boiling with anger when Zhu Wenlin saw Long Xiaotian's miserable state, he was relieved. He slowly walked to the front of Long Xiaotian and stepped on Long Xiaotian's chest with his right foot. He sneered and said, "I was almost scared by you just now. I thought you were amazing. It turns out that you are just a useless coward." Zhu Wenlin was very proud and continued, "I heard that you are Zhuowen's biological father. That is Zhuowen's biological mother. That son of a bitch's parents are now in my hands. This is really karma. Although I can't find the whereabouts of that son of a bitch now. If that son of a bitch's parents are in my hands, then I will have fun. Don't worry, you won't die so easily. I will capture you and release the news to force that Zhuowen to appear. Then, when he comes, I will kill you in front of him. Haha, I really want to see what kind of expression that son of a bitch will have when he sees his parents being killed in front of him." Zhu Wenlin laughed loudly. His face began to become sinister. Gong Zifen and In Guyun looked at each other in dismay. They despised Zhu Wenlin in their hearts. After all, they were the ones who took care of Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian. This guy took all the credit for himself. However, the two of them didn't dare to argue too much. After all, Zhu Wenlin's background is very strong. They can't afford to offend him. At this moment, the battle between the Beast King Gate's Gate Master and Lu Hantian has come to an end. Although Lu Hantian relied on his gilt battle armor to fight against the violent Jade Beast and was in an invincible position. However, the violent Jade Beast only wanted to end the battle quickly. It used a trump card that cost it a lot. It actually punched through the gilt battle armor on Lu Hantian's body and pierced through Lu Hantian's chest. Then, it ruthlessly threw Lu Hantian to the ground. At this moment, the violent Jade Beast is holding Lu Hantian's neck with one hand and slowly walked over. The tyrannical aura on its body has not dissipated yet. Many cultivators in the surroundings don't dare to approach the violent Jade Beast, and the Ryuka's upper echelons were all defeated. Some are dead, some are injured, most of them were captured alive, and the Ryuka army was defeated by Zhu Wenlin's killing array. More than 70% of the Ryuka cultivators died, and 30% of them were captured. It can be said that in this battle, Ryuka's defeat. Ha! This is a great victory. If it weren't for me, you might not have won. Zhu Wenlin stepped on Long Xiaotian, laughing proudly, high-spirited, insufferably arrogant. Immortal Master Zhu's array is unparalleled. This time, it is all thanks to Immortal Master Zhu. We will definitely report this matter to Lord Sakyamuni when we return. In Guyun smiled and said with a flattering smile, Gong Zifen and the violent Jade Beast did not say a word. In fact, the three of them were not convinced in their hearts. However, there was nothing they could do. After all, Zhu Wenlin's identity was there. That is, these Ryuka remnants are really pitiful, but you don't have to blame me. You can only blame that Zhuowen. He dared to offend me and then ran away in fear. Until now, I still can't find him. Since I can't find that bastard, I can only vent my anger on his people and relatives. You can blame that bastard. Ha ha. Zhu Wenlin was very proud. The Ryuka people saw Zhu Wenlin insulting Zhuowen verbally and glared at him. In the hearts of all the Ryuka people, Zhuowen has a supreme status. They almost worship Zhuowen like a god. They will not allow Zhuowen to be insulted. Who are you talking about? Just as Zhu Wenlin finished speaking, an extremely cold voice rang out. resounding in the air above the ruined Long family encampment. Zhu Wenlin was now in high spirits and replied without thinking, "Of course I'm talking about that Zhuowen. That bastard is cowardly and only knows how to hide. Not only is he a bastard, but he is also a coward. So it's you, the bastard, who is talking about me behind my back." The illusory voice appeared again. Zhu Wenlin's face stiffened. His eyes were gloomy. He looked up at the sky and said, "Who is it? Why are you still hiding? Come out." It wasn't just Zhu Wenlin. Yin Guyun, Gong Zifen, and the violent jade beast, who were standing not far behind Zhu Wenlin, were shocked. They didn't know where the sound came from. It was as if the voice appeared out of thin air and did not belong to anyone. Zhu Wenlin had just finished speaking when he heard a slight gust of wind behind him. He was startled, and just as he was about to turn around, a gust of wind from a palm came whistling over and hit his temple hard. Pa! The crisp sound of a slap resounded. Zhu Wenlin was dizzy from the slap. He spun twice on the spot and barely managed to stand still. He stood still, his eyes filled with anger as he shouted, "Who is it? How dare you hit me?" Before Zhu Wenlin could finish his words, another palm strike landed on his face. This slap was so fierce that it directly broke Zhu Wenlin's cheekbone. His cheeks bulged, and he looked very miserable. On the other hand, Zhu Wenlin fiercely fell to the ground like a dead pig, his entire body trembling. Zhu Wenlin angrily roared. He supported himself with both hands and tried to get up, but he quickly realized that his back was being stepped on by a foot. Then he directly fell face down and fiercely sank into the ground. He kept struggling, but could only let out muffled groans. All this happened in an instant. When everyone reacted, Zhu Wenlin was already under the foot. He was like a pig waiting to be slaughtered, shaking his body violently. Yin Guyun, Gong Zifen, and the violent jade beast had goosebumps all over their bodies. They took out their respective divine tools and looked warily at the fierce middle-aged man who was stepping on Zhu Wenlin's back. When this fierce-looking middle-aged man appeared, they actually didn't notice him at all. It was as if this person had appeared without a sound, or perhaps he had been standing there all along. This feeling was too strange. However, the three of them knew that it was not their feeling that was wrong, but the strength of the fierce middle-aged man in front of them was beyond their imagination. "Who are you?" Yin Guyun asked with fear in her beautiful eyes. The fierce middle-aged man ignored Yin Guyun's question. Behind him, a whirlpool appeared and a man in a purple robe walked out. After the man in the purple robe came out, he looked around in surprise. Then his eyes fell on the middle-aged man and asked, "Brother Zhuo, why did you suddenly call me out? What's the matter?" "Brother Ziwei, do me a favor. Guard me. I need to save people. Also, stop everyone in the area and don't allow them to leave. If anyone dares to leave, kill them without mercy." The fierce middle-aged man said to the man in the purple robe with a murderous look in his eyes. The man in the purple robe glanced at Yin Guyun and the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Earth Spirit Society, and Beast King Gate in the distance. He nodded and said, "It's just a group of ants. I'll kill them all for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. These people must be killed by me. There's no need to trouble you, Brother Ziwei." Zhuo Wen suppressed his anger and said. The man in the purple robe looked at the middle-aged man, who was suppressing his anger. He nodded and did not say anything. Instead, he stood guard around Zhuo Wen. Yin Guyun and the other two were nervous. They felt a suffocating power from the man in the purple robe. This was definitely an expert who was far stronger than a creator. Are you Zhuo Wen? Chapter 34-32. Purple Star Sovereign's strength. Yin Guyun's scream immediately caused Gong Zifen and the violent jade beast to react. They also heard Purple Star Sovereign calling this middle-aged man Brother Zhua, plus this middle-aged man attacked for Ryuka. The only person they can think of is Zhuowen, although they have seen Zhuowen's image, and know that Zhuowen has the appearance of a young man. He is not the middle-aged man in front of them at all. But they know that this middle-aged man in front of them is in disguise, and the probability that this person is Zhuowen is very high. At this moment, Zhu Wenlin, who is being stepped on by Zhuowen, also heard Inguyun scream. He roared, "Zhuowen, you bastard, you only know how to sneak attack me. If you have the guts, fight me fair and square." Zhuowen's eyes were cold, and he directly kicked Zhu Wenlin. Zhuowen did not show any mercy. The moment his foot landed, the whole ground trembled violently, and countless cracks spread from the ground in all directions. Zhu Wenlin coughed up blood again and again, and his whole backbones caved in, looking very terrible. Zhuowen ignored the half-dead Zhu Wenlin and came to Long Xiaoyan's side. Seeing Long Xiaoyan's miserable appearance, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes became even colder. He took out the best healing pill he has and gave it to Long Xiaotian. Long Xiaotian is almost half dead, and Zhuowen spent a lot of effort to feed him the pill. After taking the pill, Long Xiaotian's breathing stabilized a lot, but he is still in a coma. Feng Xiao, who is not far away, is seriously injured, but her consciousness is still very clear. She looked at Zhuowen, and her beautiful eyes were confused at first, but soon revealed a look of excitement and surprise. Zhuowen helped Feng Xiao up and brought her to Long Xiaoyan's side, and also fed her the best healing pill. After taking the healing pill, Feng Xiao's complexion became much better, and she could move freely. "Mother, take care of father first. I will go save the rest," Zhuowen whispered to Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao calmed down, and she looked deeply at Zhuowen, and said with a little worry, "When Green Jade Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society's allied forces are too many Mother, don't worry, these are nothing to me." Zhuowen smiled, said, although Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes were still a little worried. She looked at Purple Star Monarch not far away, and she felt an extremely powerful pressure from him. This is a powerhouse that far surpasses the creator. She knows that Zhuowen has such a helper. Even if he is surrounded by the allied forces of Green Jade Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society, his life is basically not in danger. Zhuowen stood up and looked at the violent jade beast in front of him. To be more precise, he looked at Lu Hantian under the violent jade beast's feet. At this moment, Lu Hantian is seriously injured, and he is crawling on the ground. The bright golden battle armor on his body is dim, and there are many cracks in many places, looking very terrifying. Lu Hantian is also a little unconscious, and his eyes are closed like a corpse. When the violent jade beast saw Zhuowen looking over, its hair couldn't help but stand on end. Although he could not sense any powerful aura from Zhuowen, this person was able to casually summon an expert like Crepe Myrtle Star, who had a terrifying oppressive force. Obviously, this person's strength was definitely not weak. At the very least, he was stronger than them. "His name is Lu Hantian, my brother. You beat him, right?" Zhuowen walked over slowly, passed by Purple Star Monarch, and walked towards the violent jade beast. The killing intent in his eyes was not concealed. The violent jade beast's pupils shrank, and it said coldly, "So what? Winner takes all. His strength is inferior to mine, and he is trampled under my feet. Isn't this natural?" Zhuowen walked over slowly. He nodded and said, "You didn't say much. Winner takes all. You are stronger than my brother, and it's right to trample him under your feet, but you have trampled on the wrong person. Today, I will also trample you under my feet, and then make you kneel in front of my brother and apologize." With that, Zhuowen stomped his right foot, and his figure suddenly became illusory. The violent jade beast's expression changed slightly, and its entire body surged with terrifying energy. In Guyun and Gong Zifen, who were standing not far away from the violent jade beast, also took out their divine tools, wanting to intercept Zhuowen. Unfortunately, their attacks missed, and they only hit Zhuowen's afterimage. Puchi! Suddenly, a fist appeared on the violent jade beast's chest. The fist punched into the violent jade beast's back and came out from the violent jade beast's chest. Blood splattered out, dripping and terrifying. The violent jade beast's eyes widened. It couldn't believe it. It didn't even know how Zhuowen punched, and it was already hit. Zhuowen slowly pulled out his fist and stepped on the violent jade beast. Ignoring the dumbfounded In Guyun and Gong Zifen, he slowly squatted down and fed the healing pill to Lu Hantian. After sensing that Lu Hantian's breath had completely stabilized, Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. Attack! In Guyun and Gong Zifen exchanged glances, took out their divine tools, and attacked Zhuowen's exposed back. Bang! Zhuowen didn't resist, and the two divine tools smashed into his back, releasing blazing divine light. Immediately after, In Guyun and Gong Zifen found out that their divine tools had collapsed, but Zhuowen's back was emitting a sparkling light, and it was actually safe and sound. How strong is this body? Divine tools smashed onto it, and there wasn't even a trace left behind. Isn't this too abnormal? In Guyun and Gong Zifen felt their hair stand on end, and they couldn't help but retreat. We have to retreat. This person is too terrifying. He's not someone we can deal with. In Guyun and Gong Zifen communicated with their divine sense and reached an agreement. They decisively took out their flying divine tools and wanted to escape. When the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society saw In Guyun and Gong Zifen escape, and the violent jade beast was beaten half to death, they were all in an uproar, and they had no intention to fight. Seeing In Guyun and Gong Zifen escape, the corner of Purple Star Sovereign's mouth curled into a mocking smile. He stretched out his right hand, and suddenly a terrifying black flame erupted from the void, turning into a sea of fire and instantly engulfing In Guyun and Gong Zifen. In Guyun and Gong Zifen were engulfed by the black flame, and they let out shrill cries as they were completely burned to ashes. Even the flying divine tools under them weren't spared. The surroundings were silent. In Guyun and Gong Zifen were sect leaders of Dao Palace level forces, and their strength was at the pinnacle of the creator level. Yet they were destroyed by this person with a wave of his hand. What kind of power did this require? At the scene, many of the captive Ryuka people's eyes lit up with excitement when they saw Purple Star Monarchs move. They already knew that the middle-aged man was Zhuowen in disguise, and the purple-robed man was Zhuowen's companion. Chapter 34-33. Submission. Seeing In Guyun and Gong Zifen being incinerated by the black flames, the Green Jade Dock, the Beast King sect, and the Earth Emanation Society's allied forces were in an uproar. They all sucked in a breath of cold air and were stunned. Two Pinnacle Genesis stage powerhouses had been killed with a flip of the hand before their eyes. This was a little too terrifying, wasn't it? The allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were all shocked. They were all trembling, and their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. Crepe Myrtle Star waved his sleeve, and the black flames covering the entire sky were all collected by him. Then his cold gaze landed on the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society. I'll give you a chance. Let go of the Ryuka people and submit to the Ryuka. Become the loyal servants of the Ryuka. I'll spare your lives. Crepe Myrtle Star said coldly. His voice wasn't loud, but it rang in everyone's ears like thunder. For a moment, the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were all hesitant. Their eyes were full of struggle. Everyone, don't be afraid. We've already destroyed the Ryuka army. We have so many people. Why should we be afraid of these two people? Yes, we have so many people. Even if we're not as strong as these two people, we have too much of an advantage in numbers. We can crush them with numbers. Among the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society, there were people who immediately urged them to attack and take down Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star. However, as soon as these heckling cultivators spoke, several sword lights flew past and blasted them into blood mists. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sword lights cut through the allied forces and landed beside Zhuowen again. The sword lights were very powerful. Only then did the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society see clearly that the source of these sword lights was 3 divine swords. They were floating around Zhuowen. These 3 divine swords were the Thunder Fire Sword, Death Sacrifice Sword, and Blood Immortal Sword. If you're not afraid of death, you can attack me. I'll take it all, Zhuowen said calmly. Instantly, the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society fell silent. Those who had been slain by the sword projections were all powerful beings of the allied army, and some of them were even gods of creation. However, all of them had been reduced to mincemeat by the 3 divine swords. This person could easily take the head of an expert from an army of tens of thousands. It was enough to show how powerful and terrifying this person was. The Alliance army even suspected that if they went all out, not only would they not be able to kill these 2 people, they might even be killed by these 2 people instead. Those who submit shall live, those who resist shall die. Zhuowen continued to emphasize. His voice was filled with a strong, murderous aura. His whole body was filled with a terrifying bloody light. The allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were all frightened by Zhuowen's aura. They trembled. Then, some cultivators put down their weapons and expressed their willingness to submit to Ryuka. After this, the other cultivators followed suit. Of course, not everyone in the allied forces was willing to submit. Some cultivators who were unwilling took out their flying divine artifacts and began to flee. However, these cultivators were killed by the 3 divine swords before they could leave Ryuka's territory. The rest of the cultivators who wanted to flee trembled when they saw the fate of the cultivators who were killed. They did not dare to flee anymore. Instead, they expressed their willingness to submit to Ryuka. The violent Jade Beast, who was originally under Zhuowen's foot, saw the many allied forces submit. Its face was ashen. It knew that it was completely finished. There was no chance for it to turn the tables. But soon, the violent Jade Beast felt a blazing killing intent. Its scalp went numb. When it looked up, it saw Zhuowen's cold gaze. You have 2 choices now. One is to apologize to my brother and submit to Ryuka. The other is to die. Zhuowen said indifferently. The violent Jade Beast's eyes were red. It growled, and a blazing light erupted from its body. I would rather die than submit. The violent Jade Beast roared and self-destructed. The bright light instantly enveloped Zhuowen's entire body. When the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society saw this scene, they were all moved. Their eyes were filled with hope. They hoped that the self-destruction of the violent Jade Beast could completely kill Zhuowen. But soon, they were disappointed. They saw that the self-destruction energy was suppressed. Then, Zhuowen appeared in front of everyone intact. Zhuowen clenched his right hand. Suddenly, the self-destruction energy completely dissipated. You're just a creator. What's the use of self-destruction? Zhuowen sneered. Looking at this scene, the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society all turned pale. They no longer had the slightest intention to resist. Zhuowen walked back to Zhu Wenlin and knocked him out with a punch. Then he used energy to imprison him and threw him into the great world. This Zhu Wenlin was from the alchemy array Dao domain. He wanted to refine the 6 desires spirit congealing pill, but he still lacked a divine medicine. He planned to go to the alchemy array Dao domain to find it. This Zhu Wenlin could be his guide. He didn't plan to kill this guy yet. Next, Zhuowen returned to his original appearance and told his true identity. All the Ryuka people were extremely excited. They all greeted Zhuowen. Feng Xiao was pleasantly surprised. She hugged Zhuowen tightly. Long Xiaotian and Lu Hantian were seriously injured and were still unconscious. Under Feng Xiao's command, the Long clan began to rebuild their encampment in an orderly manner. As for the Green Jade Dock, the Beast King sect, and the Earth Emanation Society's allied forces who had surrendered, they were locked up in the dungeons and dealt with later. "Mother, how is grandfather?" Zhuowen asked Feng Xiao. Previously, he received a message from Long Xiaotian. He learned that Long Xiangding was attacked by a spy and suffered serious injuries. He fell into a coma. He was very worried about Long Xiangding's safety. "Father is in a bad state. You should go and see him." After Feng Xiao ordered people to bring back the unconscious Long Xiaotian and Lu Hantian, she took Zhuowen to the largest pavilion in the Ryuka base. After entering a room deep within the pavilion, Zhuowen saw the old man lying on the bed, who was on the verge of death. He scanned the old man with his divine sense and sighed. Long Xiangding's injuries were indeed serious, but it was not to the point of being incurable. Zhuowen took out several top-grade healing divine pills and fed them to Long Xiangding. At the same time, he channeled his heavenly energy into Long Xiangding's body, causing Long Xiangding's pale face to become much rosier. His originally hurried breathing also became much more stable. Zhuowen sighed and said to Feng Xiao, "Mother, grandfather is fine for the time being. Next, he just needs to take one of these healing pills every day. He should be able to wake up in a few days." Feng Xiao took the jade bottle, and her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. She looked at Zhuowen and said, "I didn't expect you to be so amazing after being away for so long. Not only can you take out such precious pills, but even your friend is so powerful. Your friend's strength is probably already at the creator realm. Your cultivation should also be at the creator realm." Speaking of this, Feng Xiao said with some worry, "This time, the allied forces of Jasper Dock, Beast King Gate, and Earth Spirit Society were defeated. The sect leader of the 10 Ultimate Corps sect, Sakyamuni, will soon know. I'm afraid that the 10 Ultimate Corps sect will send people again, and even the Nadi Shiva will come personally. The Nadi Shiva is said to be at the middle stage of the Master Realm, and with that strange dead man flower, his cultivation is breaking through very quickly. I'm afraid he is broken through again." Chapter 34:34. Going to the 10 extremes, Corps Sexuan smiled and said, "Mother, my friend is called Crepe Myrtle Star. His cultivation is not only at the Creation Master level, but also at the late stage of the Tongtian Master level. He is extremely powerful. My cultivation has also reached the middle stage of the Tongtian Master level. If the Nadi Shiva really dares to come, I'll make sure they don't return." When Feng Xiao heard this news, she covered her cherry lips, feeling incredulous. She was completely shocked by Zhuowen's words. She did not expect Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star to have such high cultivation. Good. When, your cultivation is so high, Mother is happy for you," Feng Xiao said happily. Zhuowen smiled. He had only revealed the cultivation of his original body. If Feng Xiao knew that Zhuowen's clone was much stronger than his original body, she would probably be even more surprised. However, The implications of the Pangu's sacred body were too great. Zhuowen would not easily reveal it because it would be bad for Feng Xiao to know about it. Mother, the host region is no longer safe. I plan to move Ryuka to my great world. The laws in my great world have been completely perfected, and the heavenly energy there is even richer than the outside world. In addition, the great world has resources that surpass the Tao Palace level. It's enough to make Ryuka a true behemoth that surpasses all the Tao Palace level forces. Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Feng Xiao was a little confused. She subconsciously felt that Zhuowen was bragging, but she did not show it. Instead, she smiled and agreed. Zhuowen knew that Feng Xiao did not believe what he said, but he did not care. He knew very well that the resources in the great world would only be more abundant than what he said. Thinking of this, Zhuowen waved his sleeve and brought Feng Xiao into the great world. When Feng Xiao saw the scenery in the great world, the piles of resources, and the environment full of rich heavenly energy, she was completely stunned. Only then did she understand that Zhuowen was not bragging. Instead, what he said before was very modest. Zhuowen brought Feng Xiao out of the great world and smiled at Feng Xiao, who was a little bit Xiao. Your great world is really incredible. If Ryuka can really stay in it, we will definitely develop in the shortest amount of time. Even the 10 Extremes Incorp sect will be suppressed by us, Feng Xiao said excitedly. Mother, I'll have to make arrangements for the Ryuka. I plan to bring all the members of the Long family into the great world, said Zhuowen. No problem. Feng Xiao quickly nodded in agreement and then left in a hurry. Just as Zhuowen was making arrangements for the Ryuka to enter the great world, Sakyamuni was sitting cross-legged on a futon in a secret room of the 10 Ultimate Incorp sect. In front of him was a blood pool that emitted the smell of blood. At this moment, 4 figures were floating above the blood pool. These 4 figures were lying flat in midair, with their eyes closed, but their auras were extremely vast. However, among these 4 figures, 3 of them were already dead. They were emaciated and had become 3 dried corpses. Sakyamuni slowly opened his eyes, glanced at the 3 dried corpses, and sneered. The 3 sect masters of Jue Ri Temple, Fallen Star Mountain, and Shukong Palace are really useless. After I absorbed all their cultivation, I still couldn't break through to the late stage of Tongtian Master. At this point, Sakyamuni waved his sleeve, and the 3 dried corpses fell into the blood pool and were completely submerged in it. Tan Xinghua, you're an expert in the middle stage of Tongtian Master. I hope you don't disappoint me. Sakyamuni looked at the last figure and stretched out his right hand. Suddenly, an extremely beautiful flower bloomed in the middle of Tan Xinghua's head. This flower was the dead flower. In the center of the dead man's flower's stamen, golden energy began to gush out one after another. It gushed out like a torrent and poured into Sakra's palm. Then it followed his palm and entered his body. Sakyamuni hurriedly activated his cultivation method and began to absorb this energy to break through to the late stage of Tongtian Master. Time gradually passed, and soon Sakyamuni's aura became more and more vast and finally reached its peak. Just as Sakyamuni was about to break through, Tan Xinghua's corpse completely turned into a dried corpse. The dead flower bloomed above his head, and no more energy was transmitted. Damn it, just a little bit more, and I would have broken through smoothly. How could you let me down at this time? Sakyamuni roared in exasperation. No, I have to break through. Scarlet Mountain Villa's sect leader, Scarlet Xiu, let you go last time because Tan Xinghua came to save you. This time, no one can save you. Just be my nourishment, and let me break through. Sakyamuni muttered to himself and left the secret chamber. He was ready to immediately go to Scarlet Mountain Villa, capture Scarlet Xiao, and absorb her cultivation to break through to the late stage of Tongtian Master. When Sakyamuni left the 10 Extreme Zen Corps sect, Zhuowen, who was in the Ryuka camp, had already put all the Ryuka people into the Great World. After Long Xiaotian and Lu Hantian woke up, they realized that Zhuowen had solved the Ryuka crisis. They were overjoyed and gave Zhuowen a bear hug. After that, Long Xiangding also woke up and was in good condition. After hearing about Zhuowen's deeds, Long Xiangding praised him and said that he had given birth to a good grandson. Zhuowen chatted with his family and friends in the Great World for a long time before leaving. He also brought Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxia with him. Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxia stood respectfully beside Zhuowen. The two of you, the sect leader of the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect, Senki Yin, has fallen. Sakyamuni now controls the entire 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect. Logically speaking, the rightful successor should be Ghost Plume, the eldest disciple. Now that Sakyamuni has indiscriminately seized the sect leader's position, I'm afraid he has ulterior motives. Zhuowen said calmly. Ghost Plume's gaze turned cold. He bowed respectfully and said, "My lord, Ghost Plume is willing to listen to your every command." "Good. You and Yin Wuxia will go to the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect for me and seize the sect leader's position. But don't worry, I will attach the Great World to your body. If anything happens, I will help you," Zhuowen said calmly. Zhuowen planned to go directly to the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect. If he had the chance, he would destroy the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect. Of course, he did not plan to go against the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect openly. Instead, he planned to use the identity of Ghost Plume to enter the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect and destroy it from the inside. Chapter 34-35. That seizing the throne in the 10 Ultimates Yin Corps sect, Sakyamuni ordered his right-hand men to guard the sect. Then, he took out his flying divine artifact and flew toward the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Ever since the Scarlet Mountain Villa's sect master, Scarlet Xiao, had been severely injured by Sakyamuni, she had been hiding in the Scarlet Mountain Villa and activated the sect-protecting formation. Many of the 10 Ultimates Yin Corps sect's subordinate sects had already surrounded the Scarlet Mountain Villa. The people of the Scarlet Mountain Villa could not leave. Last time, Sakyamuni had been injured in the battle with Tan Xinghua, so he did not continue to attack the Scarlet Mountain Villa, giving Scarlet Xiao some time to breathe. Now his injuries had healed, and his cultivation was even more powerful. He was on the verge of a breakthrough. His essence, energy, and spirit had reached their peak, and he planned to completely take down the Scarlet Mountain Villa. Thinking about how he could successfully break through after absorbing Scarlet Xiao's cultivation, Sakyamuni licked his lips in excitement. After Sakyamuni left the Scarlet Mountain Villa, Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxia both arrived at the 10 Ultimates Yin Corps sect. "Are you Senior Ghost Plume and Elder Yin Wuxia?" When the gatekeeper saw Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxia, he immediately recognized them. Ghost Plume nodded and said, "Today, I came to the 10 Ultimates Yin Corps sect to take back my things." Back then, Sect Master Sun had already appointed me as the next Sect Master, but I didn't expect Sakyamuni to take it away. "Move aside and let the naughty Shiva come out. I want to question him properly." The gatekeeper's eyes flashed, and he said helplessly, "Senior Ghost Plume, we always thought that you had fallen and were killed by Zhuowen. We didn't expect you to still be alive. The sect master has already left the sect and went to the Scarlet Mountain Villa." Ghost Plume grinned and said, "Ha, that's good. Let me in. Today, I'm returning to the sect to take back my things." With that said, Gui Ling ignored the obstruction of the cultivators guarding the gate and entered the sect. The gatekeeper was helpless. Ghost Plume was the eldest disciple of the Incorp sect, one of the 10 ultimates. In the past, he was even one of the 5 great freaks of the host region. He was very famous, and his prestige among the younger generation of disciples was even higher. Although Ghost Plume had been missing for a long time, Ghost Plume's prestige in the sect was still quite high. The moment Ghost Plume stepped into the sect, 2 figures appeared from the depths of the sect. These 2 figures were withered old men, and their auras were very vast. They were both early-stage Skirich lords. These 2 old men were unknown elders of the 10 Extremities Incorp sect. They were later promoted by Sakyamuni and helped to raise their cultivation. With the help of the Death Flower, they finally broke through to the Master of Heaven and became Ghost Plume's left and right arms. Ghost Plume. Among the 2 old men, one of them was a short-haired old man. His eyes were bright as he looked at Gui Ling in surprise. Ghost Plume looked at the 2 old men and said indifferently, "So it's Elder Tian and Elder N. I didn't expect your cultivation to rise so quickly. You're already early-stage Skirich lords." Ghost Plume naturally knew these 2 old men. The 10 Extremities Incorp sect had 10 elders, but they had all been killed by Zhuowen. The 10th elder, In Wuxia, had submitted to Zhuowen. These 2 old men were Tian Kongtai and In Zhenghao. Back then, their strength was second only to the 10 great elders. The short-haired old man who spoke just now was Tian Kongtai, and the long-haired old man was In Zhenghao. This is all thanks to Sect Master Sakyamuni's efforts. Ghost Plume, since you're back, go back to your pavilion. When the Sect Master returns, he will naturally make arrangements for you. Tian Kongtai said, his eyes full of arrogance. He did not care about Ghost Plume at all. Ghost Plume's eyes were gloomy. He said coldly, "Elder Tian, I didn't come back today to wait for Sakyamuni to make arrangements for me. I came back today to take back my position as Sect Master." Back then, Sect Master Sun had already said that the next Sect Master would be me. Don't tell me you didn't know. As soon as he said this, many of the gathered disciples were in an uproar. They did not expect Ghost Plume to take the position of Sect Master of the 10 Extremities Incorp sect as soon as he returned. Was this a joke? Of course, there were also some disciples who were happy and hoped that Ghost Plume could take the position of Sect Master. This was because the 10 Extremities Incorp sect had been turned into a mess by Sakyamuni. Although they had produced many experts, they had all evolved rapidly under the effect of the Death Flower. Moreover, after consuming too many Death Flowers, their minds would become muddled. Moreover, during Sakyamuni's reign, many disciples had mysteriously disappeared. This caused a huge commotion among the disciples, who believed that the disappearance of the disciples had something to do with Sakyamuni. Ghost Plume, are you dreaming? With your cultivation at the late-stage Lord of Creation realm, and that In Wuxia behind you, who is only a peak Lord of Creation realm. What qualifications do you have? Tian Kongtai sneered, and Zhenghao also coldly agreed. That's right. After Sect Master Sakyamuni took over, he developed our 10 Extremities Incorp sect to its current height and made it the #1 sect in the host region. Can you do it? With your cultivation, it's too weak. You actually want to take over the position of Sect Master? Are you dreaming? Ghost Plume was very calm. You mean that as long as I'm strong enough to defeat Sakyamuni, I can take over the position of Sect Master? Ha! With your cultivation, how can you be qualified to challenge Sect Master Sakyamuni? If you can defeat me, you can become the new Sect Master. Unfortunately, do you have the strength? Tian Kongtai sneered, and Zhenghao frowned and sent a voice transmission to Tian Kongtai, telling him not to act on his own. Tian Kongtai replied, I can take this opportunity to get rid of Ghost Plume. When Sect Master returns, we will have done a great service. And Zhenghao heard this and nodded. He also felt that Ghost Plume was not a match for Tian Kongtai. The difference in their cultivation was too great. Gui Ling was very calm. He ignored Tian Kongtai and Zheng Hao, who were communicating with each other. Instead, he spoke loudly to the 10 ultimate In Corpse sect disciples around him. Everyone heard it. Tian Kongtai said that as long as I defeat him, the position of sect leader of the 10 ultimate In Corpse sect will be mine. I hope that someone will not go back on his words after I win. The disciples around were in an uproar, but they all shook their heads secretly. They felt that Ghost Plume was overestimating himself. He actually wanted to challenge Tian Kongtai, who was the sect master of heaven. Defeat me? That's impossible. Tian Kongtai sneered and continued, Tell me, where do you want to die? Ghost Plume narrowed his eyes. He could see the killing intent in Tian Kongtai's eyes. He knew that Tian Kongtai wanted to kill him here, and now, here it is. This will be your burial ground, Ghost Plume said calmly. Fine, then I won't hold back. Go to hell. Tian Kongtai laughed loudly. His right hand formed a palm and blasted out, landing on Ghost Plume's head. A powerful shockwave spread out, causing the surrounding space to distort and collapse. The disciples of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect all retreated and consciously opened up a space for Ghost Plume to fight with Tian Kongtai. Gui Ling stood motionless and looked at Tian Kongtai at the same level as if he was indifferent. Tian Kongtai snorted coldly. In his heart, he had already sentenced Ghost Plume to death. However, when Tian Kongtai's right palm landed on the ground, a sword light shot out from Ghost Plume's body and slashed out. Puchi! Tian Kongtai's right hand was slashed into a bloody mist. Then, the sword light carried a powerful lightning and fire energy. The lightning and fire energy was like maggots that latched onto bones, instantly enveloping Tian Kongtai. Chapter 34-36. The call from beyond the starry sky, the entire place was silent. Before any of them could react, Tian Kongtai had already been killed. When they finally reacted, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at the Ghost Plume in disbelief. The Ghost Plume was still standing in the same spot, unmoving. Around the Ghost Plume was a divine sword surrounded by lightning and fire. Just now, Tian Kongtai had been reduced to dust by this divine sword with a single slash, and Zheng Hao, who had his arms crossed and was ready to watch a good show, was stunned when he saw Tian Kongtai killed in a single move. He sucked in a breath of cold air and quickly retreated. However, not long after Zheng Hao retreated, the thunder fire sword shot out again. Wherever it passed, lightning and fire spread to the horizon. It was as if the entire sky was filled with lightning and fire. Trash, why are you running? Eat this Dragon Lord's sword. I'll let you know why the flowers are red. The thunder fire sword was very fast and closed in on Zheng Hao in an instant. The thunder fire sword's artifact spirit, Xiao He, was cursing and swearing. His words were very vulgar, and the surrounding people were petrified. The artifact spirit of the divine sword was a little too weird. Each of its insults was more interesting than the last. It was simply too overwhelming. And Zheng Hao's expression changed. He only had time to summon his artifact to block the thunder fire sword. Unfortunately, his artifact was only a creation-grade artifact. The difference between it and the thunder fire sword was too great. It shattered in an instant, and the thunder fire sword pierced through Zheng Hao. The lightning and fire energy exploded, and Zheng Hao died without a complete corpse. In the blink of an eye, both Zheng Hao and Tian Kongtai were killed. The 10 Absolutes In Corpse sect was silent. All the disciples were in disbelief. Does anyone have any objections to me taking over the position of sect master? The Ghost Plume looked around. His voice was not loud, but everyone heard him clearly. Everyone from the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect lowered their heads. The ghost plume was too powerful. He had killed in Zheng Hao and Tian Kongtai, two early-stage transcending heaven masters, in an instant. They had all speculated that Ghost Plume really had the strength to contend with Sakyamuni. Moreover, Ghost Plume taking over the position of sect master was justified. Back then, Senki Yin's sudden death and Ghost Plume's disappearance were considered dead. It was reasonable that the position of sect master would fall to Sakyamuni. Ghost Plume's sect master was Ghost Plume. Ghost Plumes now. The 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect of the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect master. Sect master. Even though Gui Ling looked calm on the surface, he was extremely nervous in his heart. At the same time, he had not expected that the fight for the position of the Grandmaster this time around would go so smoothly. He had been subdued so easily. This was to be expected. Sakyamuni had been tyrannical during his reign. Many disciples had suffered. If not for Sakyamuni's strength, many disciples would have left the sect long ago. Moreover, Sakyamuni had only joined the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect for a short period of time. Many disciples were unhappy that he had become the sect master in such a short period of time. However, Sakyamuni's pressure prevented them from speaking out. Ghost Plume was the eldest disciple of the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect. Senki Yin had once publicly acknowledged that he had the qualifications to succeed the position of sect master. In addition, Ghost Plume had displayed great strength. Therefore, it was easy for everyone to acknowledge Ghost Plume's position. If it had been anyone else, it would have been impossible for them to join the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect master so easily. You may leave for now. Ghost Plume entered the sect master's hall. After dismissing everyone, Zhuowen emerged from the great realm. "Greetings, master," Ghost Plume said respectfully. "Ghost Plume, you've done well. In the coming days, I will set up a killing array in the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect and wait for Sakyamuni's return. Also, spread the news of the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect master. When the naughty Shiva hears about it, they will definitely rush over. When that time comes, we will catch a turtle in a jar," Zhuowen said calmly. Gui Ling nodded his head in acknowledgement and was extremely respectful. After speaking, Zhuowen left the sect master's hall. At the same time, he disguised himself as a fierce-looking middle-aged man. As for his identity, he was appointed by Ghost Plume as the law-enforcing elder of the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect. His position was neither high nor low. Zhuowen had deliberately asked Ghost Plume to arrange this so that he would not stand out too much and attract the attention of others. Zhuowen spent a few hours to break through most of the arrays in the 10 Absolutes in Corpse sect master's hall. At the same time, he spent a few days to set up the entire sect's Great Realm Array. This Great Realm Array would have no problem trapping a Master of Heaven Ascension. After setting up the Great Realm Array, Zhuowen returned to the room that Ghost Plume had arranged for him and continued to study the True Alchemy Array records. Ever since he had learned that there was always someone better than him, he had become increasingly aware of his own insignificance. He wanted to continue to evolve until he broke through the shackles of this starry sky and achieve true freedom. As for Sakyamuni, Zhuowen actually didn't take him to heart. His strength had grown to such a level, and no matter how extraordinary Sakyamuni's talent was, Zhuowen was confident that he could completely kill Sakyamuni. In Zhuowen's eyes, his current opponents were of a higher level, such as half-step heaven-crushing cultivators, the primal chaos that threatened this starry sky, and even the true powerhouses of the 100 realms that the heaven-splitting axe had mentioned. At the same time that Zhuowen's horizons had been broadened, He had become much less hostile and interested in his former enemies in this starry sky. At this moment, the Scarlet Mountain Villa had already been breached by Sakyamuni, and the sect leader of the Scarlet Mountain Villa, Scarlet Beauty, had been captured alive by Sakyamuni. Moreover, Sakyamuni had planted the Death Flower's seed in her body. At this moment, Sakyamuni also received news that Ghost Plume had returned and killed Tian Kongtai, and in Zhenghao, regaining control of the Ten Absolutes Incorp sect. Ghost Plume? He's just a clown. After I break through, I'll tear Ghost Plume to shreds. Sakyamuni's face was full of disdain. A few days later, Sakyamuni sat in the main hall of the Scarlet Mountain Villa while Scarlet Beauty floated in the air with a pale face. At this moment, a beautiful flower was slowly growing out of Scarlet Beauty's Tianling acupoint. The death flower had matured. Sakyamuni opened his eyes and stretched out his right hand. Instantly, blazing energy surged out of the death flower and entered Sakyamuni's body. Sakyamuni's aura continued to skyrocket. In the instant that his aura reached its peak, there was a loud boom, and his body began to transform. At the same time, the energy in his body also underwent a qualitative change. Sakyamuni roared, and countless gusts of wind swept out. The main hall of the Scarlet Mountain Villa collapsed, revealing Sakyamuni's arrogant figure. I've broken through. I'm already at the late stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. My Tao root has also completely evolved and reached perfection. I feel like my Tao root has surpassed the shackles of this starry sky. Sakyamuni's eyes were filled with confusion. He was very curious about his Tao root. In the instant that his Tao root had evolved to perfection, he had felt a calling from beyond the starry sky. Chapter 34-37. Ice Fiend King above the starry sky. There was a mysterious world domain. That place was filled with layers upon layers of planes that formed a spiral shape that constantly grew. Within these spiral planes, there were nearly 100 worlds. Each world was extremely vast, countless times larger than the starry sky Zhuoan was in. The spiral plane was one of the legendary 100 outer realms. The 100 domains existed in the chaotic void. They were in a spiral shape, as if they were constantly rotating. And what was even more shocking was that below this spiral plane was a grand tree that emitted a purple light. The roots of this tree were so deep that they couldn't see the bottom. It was unknown where its roots were. The branches were lush and purple leaves grew from them. They emitted a faint purple light that contained a mysterious and powerful strength. This tree was simply too large. In front of this tree, the 100 domains were as small as ants. It had to be known that each of the 100 domains was far larger than the starry sky. They were truly large places, but in front of this tree, they were as small as ants. It was simply inconceivable. The branches and leaves of this purple tree were filled with fruits. They were the color of the starry sky. They were sparkling and translucent, emitting a fragrance. These fruits were simply too similar to the starry sky. If one looked carefully, they would be able to see through the surface of these fruits. Inside these fruits were twinkling stars, as if they were stars in the starry sky. Above the purple tree and the 100 domains, at the peak of the endless chaotic void, there was a star that had existed since ancient times. This star was very large, but it was very far away from the tree and the 100 domains. Its surface emitted a multicolored light. What was even stranger was that on the surface of this star, there were shadows surging. It was as if some mysterious supreme being had cast their shadows onto it. The auras of these shadows were too terrifying. All of the living beings in the 100 domains could only look up at these shadows. Moreover, they didn't dare to look directly at these shadows. These shadows were too powerful. If they didn't have enough strength, they would go blind if they looked directly at them. Some even had their souls collapse and perish. Just like that, this strange star hung high in the primal chaos void, emitting gorgeous colors. He was very far away, but its radiance illuminated the entire primal chaos void. At this moment, in the 100 domains of the outer realm, in a plane filled with a cold and eerie aura, this was the otherworldly ghost clan domain. Within the realm of the otherworldly ghost clan, there was a glorious yet lonely palace. A middle-aged man with disheveled hair inside the hall seemed to have sensed something and suddenly opened his eyes. The middle-aged man's face was as white as snow, and there was a blue mark between his eyebrows. He was wearing a crystal-clear ice armor. Someone has actually awakened the undying Tao root of our race. Moreover, he's a lowly person from the lower realm. How rare! The middle-aged man's pupils were also blue and emitted a demonic light. He looked pensive as he muttered to himself, "The undying ancestral Tao root is too important. If he's able to mature, then he'll become a king of variant ghosts. We must find this person." The middle-aged man's eyes flickered. He pinched the air with his right hand, and a ray of blue light shot out. In next to no time, a young man with a snow-white face and a suit of ice armor knelt on one knee before the middle-aged man. "Ice Fiend King, may I know why you've called this subordinate?" the young man asked in a low voice. "Someone has awakened the undying ancestral Tao root. I need you to help me bring that person back to our realm," the Ice Fiend King said indifferently. The young man's eyes focused, and then he revealed an expression of surprise. The undying ancestral Tao root was the most powerful ancestral Tao root of their otherworldly ghost clan. Any clansman with such an ancestral Tao root would become a supreme expert in the future and stand at the peak of the 100 domains of the outer realm. They might even become terrifying figures that might enter the primeval star system. However, undying ancestral Tao roots were truly too rare. It had already been tens of thousands of eras since a genius with such an ancestral Tao root had appeared in the otherworldly ghost clan, and there hadn't been another genius with an undying ancestral Tao root since then. But now, such a genius had actually appeared once more. Even the young man couldn't help but tremble with excitement. "Ice Fiend King, please tell me the location of that lord. Which realm is it? I'll definitely bring that person back smoothly." The young man was very excited. The Ice Fiend King's expression was gloomy, and he sighed lightly. "That person isn't in the 100 domains of the outer realm. He's in a starry sky fruit in the lower realm." "What? A lowly person from the lower realm? How could an undying ancestral Tao root appear in the lower realm?" The smile on the young man's face instantly faded greatly, and he was slightly dumbstruck. It might be a living being with the bloodline of our otherworldly ghost clan that unintentionally awakened such an ancestral Tao root. Even though the probability is very small, it has indeed appeared now. The Ice Fiend King was slightly helpless. He glanced at the young man before him and said in a low voice, "Bing Hui, I might have to trouble you this time. You need to sever your cultivation and sneak into the lower realm to search for the clansman with the undying ancestral Tao root." The young man's pupils constricted slightly when he heard this, and he revealed a hesitant expression. He was a genius with pretty good natural talent in the otherworldly ghost clan. He was a half-step heaven-crushing realm cultivator when he was born, and he'd advanced to the heaven-crushing realm after cultivating for 3 eras. If he severed his cultivation and fell from the heaven-crushing realm, it would be equivalent to severing his future, and it would be impossible for him to crush the heavens again in the future. After all, the living beings in the 100 territories outside the lower realm were too formidable. If their cultivation was too formidable, they would be rejected by the primeval primordial tree, and they would definitely die once they entered the lower realm. If a heaven-crushing realm expert wanted to enter the lower realm, then they had to sever their cultivation and lower their strength to below the heaven-crushing realm. Bing Hui, if you bring that clansman back this time, I promise to find a way to reconstruct your cultivation, and I'll take you as my disciple and focus on fostering you. The Ice Fiend King noticed Bing Hui's hesitation, and he promised solemnly. Bing Hui revealed a surprised expression when he heard this. The Ice Fiend King was one of the 3 kings of the otherworldly ghost clan, and he possessed an extremely lofty status. Moreover, he was the only king amongst the 3 kings that didn't accept disciples. Now, the Ice Fiend King was actually going to make an exception and take a disciple for the sake of that lowly person with the undying ancestral Tao root, and it was obvious how much importance the Ice Fiend King attached to that lowly person. Bing Hui is willing to search for the clansman with the undying ancestral Tao root for my lord. Bing Hui spoke solemnly. Ha, good. Bing Hui, you'll be my eldest disciple from now on, and the clansman with the undying ancestral Tao root you find will be your junior brother. However, this matter absolutely cannot be made public. If the other clans know that a genius with the undying ancestral Tao root has appeared in our clan, they'll probably try to sabotage us. This matter can only be carried out in secret. The Ice Fiend King said in a low voice, "As my lord commands." Bing Hui definitely won't disappoint you, and I'll find my junior brother, Bing Hui said respectfully. Take this talisman. You can sever your cultivation without feeling any pain when using this talisman. Moreover, the side effects will be greatly reduced, and it'll be easier to recover in the future. The Ice Fiend King took out a faint blue talisman and tossed it to Bing Hui. Bing Hui was very straightforward, and he used the talisman as soon as he received it. A faint blue light instantly enveloped Bing Hui, and then Bing Hui let out a miserable cry. Chapter 34-38. The powerful Sakyamuni, the Ice Fiend King's gaze was calm as he said, Bing Hui, your cultivation has already fallen to the half-step heaven-crushing realm, so your combat strength should be around the 5th heaven's blight of the 5 heavens blight. Such strength is practically invincible in the lower realms. I hope you can bring that person to me as soon as possible. Bing Hui exhaled lightly as he slowly stood up and asked in a low voice, My lord, there are so many starry sky fruits growing on the primordial tree. Which starry sky fruit did you sense junior brother undying Tao root in? It's a very young starry sky fruit, and it's located at the bottom of the primordial tree. Don't worry, I'll teleport you over. With your current cultivation, the laws of heaven within that starry sky fruit won't reject you too much. You'll be able to enter it. Take this token. You'll be able to sense the person with the undying Tao root through this token. The Ice Fiend King took out a token and tossed it to Bing Hui. With a wave of his hand, a wave of teleportation energy surged, and Bing Hui vanished on the spot. I hope Bing Hui doesn't disappoint me. The Ice Fiend King muttered to himself as he sat in the dark palace. Within the host region, Sakyamuni returned to his senses. His eyes regained their clarity, and his entire body emanated a light that flowed like water. The instant his Tao root evolved to perfection, he sensed a mysterious power within his body. This mysterious power had appeared abruptly, and it caused the power within his body to continuously transform and undergo a qualitative leap. Sakyamuni revealed an excited expression. He could sense that the evolution of his Tao root had caused his physique to undergo a substantial transformation at that instant. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Sakyamuni's current combat strength had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. He knew that his strength had far surpassed the late-stage Heaven's Passage Master, and he could easily annihilate them. Even if a peak Heaven's Passage Master came, Sakyamuni wouldn't fear him at all. He knew that his current combat strength was comparable to a peak Heaven's Passage master, and there was probably no cultivator in the entire Xianmi Heaven region who was more powerful than him. At that moment, Sakyamuna's eyes lit up and his body emanated unprecedented confidence. Ghost word, how dare you snatch the position of the 10 art sect master? You should know your own words. Sakyamuni looked at the 10-star region, and he stomped on the ground forest. Is the translation, and the Scarlet Mountain range, and the Scarlet Mountain Ridge mountain range. Scarlet Forest Indra had destroyed the Scarlet Mountain Villa with just one kick. This made the other forces that had joined forces to besiege the Scarlet Mountain Villa tremble in fear. They were even more shocked and fearful of Indra. The translation. Is translation is master? Sect is passage sect was. Is sect. Master? However, before the gatekeeper could say anything else, his body exploded into a mist of blood. Sakyamuni didn't say a word. Instead, he stepped into the sect. Every cultivator who appeared in front of him exploded into a bloody mist. Sakyamuni didn't say a word. Instead, he walked slowly with his hands behind his back. Sakyamuni's sect masters had caused a bloodbath. Naturally, Ghost Plume and Zhuowen were alerted. Ghost Plume walked out with a group of higher-ups. Zhuowen, who was disguised as a middle-aged man, followed them secretly. Ghost Plume, you've grown up. How dare you snatch the sect master's position when I'm not around? And all of you, how dare you betray me so quickly? I'll remember this. After I destroy Ghost Plume, all of you don't need to live anymore. Sakyamuni looked at Ghost Plume, then at the higher-ups behind Ghost Plume. He didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. The upper echelons of the sect all shrunk their necks as they were all frightened by Sakra. Humph! The sect master's position is mine. You, Sakyamuni, are just a bastard who came out of nowhere. Also, sect master's son was at his peak. How could he die suddenly? I'm afraid it's all you're doing. Ghost Plume looked coldly at Sakyamuni. He took out a formation flag and threw it out. All of a sudden, the grand formation in the sect was activated. The wind and clouds changed, and a terrifying, murderous aura appeared. 12 gigantic phantoms that seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens and earth appeared around the grand formation. It was the 12 Heavenly Deity Wraith array, a Heaven Ascension class killing array. Aside from the 12 Heavenly Deity Wraith array, the array also contained a terrifying cloud aura killing intent. There was also a Heaven Ascension class killing array, the 10 Directional Cloud Annihilation array. When the 2 sky-piercing killing arrays appeared, the upper echelons of the sect beside Gui Ling calmed down a little. Their gazes involuntarily landed on the middle-aged man disguised by Zhuowen. After spending some time together, they knew that this middle-aged man was a heaven-piercing formation master that Ghost Plume had met later. With such a heaven-piercing formation master overseeing the sect, no matter how strong Sakyamuni was, he would have to suffer. 2 heaven-piercing formations? Sakra's face slightly changed as he felt that it was inconceivable. He didn't expect that not long after he left the sect, not only was the sect's array changed, but also 2 Heaven Pass level killing arrays were rearranged. What a great move. Sakyamuni, are you still not going to surrender? You have no chance of winning against these 2 heaven-piercing formations. Ghost Plume sneered. Ha ha, it's just 2 heaven-piercing formations. You think you can stop me? Sakyamuni laughed wildly as a powerful aura burst out from his body. Then Sakyamuni moved, and a terrifying blue light burst out from his body. Ever since the Sakra's Tao root had completely evolved, the golden vertical bar between his brows had completely changed. It had turned into a blue vertical bar. The previous blazing aura had turned into a gloomy and cold aura. His entire aura had also become completely different. Of course, Sakymuni's strength was also many times stronger than before. Sakyamuni was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he brushed past the 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows in the 12 overseers' divine wraith formation. When Indra once again landed on the ground, the 12 ancestral magi's phantoms all exploded, dispersing into countless fine powder. The 12 overseers' divine wraith formation had been destroyed by brute force just like that. At this moment, countless clouds of murderous intent had already surged up. They were densely packed like a tidal wave and drowned Sakyamuni. Sakyamuni's eyes were cold. He stomped his foot, and his long hair fluttered like long needles. Then a terrifying cold aura was released from his body. The clouds of murderous intent in the surroundings were all frozen into ice mist and then shattered into ice shards. At this moment, Ghost Plume and the others were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Sakyamuni was so heaven-defying that he could destroy a formation with one move. He only used 2 moves to destroy the 2 great arrays. This was too powerful. Zhuoan, who was hiding among the higher-ups of the sect, couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Chapter 34-39. Aggrieved. Lord Sakyamuni, have you broken through to late-stage Empyrean Lord? Someone in the upper echelon asked in a weak voice, his body trembling and his expression panicked. Humph, this Lord has indeed broken through, but you've all disappointed me too much. How could you betray me so quickly? Sakyamuni sneered. Lord Sakyamuni, this has nothing to do with us. Ghost Plume forced us. Our hearts have always been with you, my lord. Several upper echelon members of the sect left Ghost Plume's team and approached Sakyamuni. With fawning smiles on their faces, they began to express their loyalty to Sakyamuni. Ghost Plume's expression flickered. These upper echelon members who had left were all rather powerful and ranked near the top of the sect, yet they had betrayed him so quickly. Moreover, he discovered that quite a few of the upper echelon members of the team were also in an uproar, their eyes flashing. Clearly, they had been intimidated by Sakyamuni's strength and were beginning to panic. Splat! Splat! Suddenly, the upper echelon members of the sect who had approached Sakyamuni revealed looks of terror when they reached Sakyamuni's side. Then they exploded into clouds of bloody mist, unable to be any more dead. This lord doesn't like to take in traitors. Since you betrayed me once, only death awaits you. There's no use in regretting it. Sakyamuni was very domineering, with his hands behind his back and his eyes filled with arrogance. He wiped out those upper echelon members with a wave of his hand. The remaining upper echelon members of Ghost Plume's team trembled when they saw the fate of those people. None of them dared to come into contact with Sakyamuni. Ghost Plume, get over here and accept your death. Sakyamuni cast a sidelong glance at Ghost Plume, his face filled with disdain. He naturally saw that Ghost Plume's cultivation was only at the Creation Lord realm. In his eyes, this level of cultivation was an ant-like existence. He didn't care about it at all. Ghost Plume was very calm and said indifferently, Sakyamuni, I don't need to do anything to deal with you. My friend will naturally eliminate you for me. Sakyamuni, however, laughed arrogantly. He looked at Ghost Plume as if he was an idiot and said, You really know how to brag. However, I don't have the patience to talk nonsense with you. Just die. Impatient, Sakyamuni reached out his right hand and grabbed Ghost Plume. The upper echelons of the sect standing behind Ghost Plume scattered like birds and beasts when they saw Sakyamuni attack. Only Ghost Plume and Zhuoan, who was disguised as a middle-aged man, remained. Zhuowen took a step forward and punched out. This punch instantly erupted with all the power of the Pangu's sacred body. The surface of his fist emitted a sparkling and translucent light. It was very bright and flawless like jade. Sakyamuni didn't care at first, but the moment he felt Zhuowen's punch, his expression changed. Boom! The fist and palm collided, exploding with terrifying energy. Countless gales swept out. Sakyamuni grunted. His right palm exploded and blood splattered. He retreated continuously. On the other hand, Zhuowen stood in place, unmoving. His gaze was calm. The two exchanged blows at lightning speed. Zhuowen was as immovable as a mountain, while Sakyamuni's right palm was shattered. The difference in strength was obvious. Zhuowen's gaze became serious. He felt that he had underestimated Sakyamuni. Just now, Sakyamuni hadn't used his full strength. It was just a casual attack, but he had used his full strength. He originally thought that he would directly destroy Sakyamuni's full strength. He didn't expect that it would only explode one of Sakyamuni's palms. Moreover, Sakyamuni's injuries weren't particularly serious. This made Zhuowen feel very serious. He knew that Sakyamuni wasn't an ordinary late-stage Heaven's Passage realm expert. He was already comparable to a peak Heaven's Passage realm expert, like Wu Shinya of the sorcerer race. Back then, although Zhuowen relied on the Pangu's sacred body to completely suppress Wu Shinya, he didn't have the ability to completely kill Wu Shinya. In the end, he had to rely on the Pangu's sacred body to kill Wu Shinya. And this Sakyamuni's battle strength was very strong. This made Zhuowen very cautious. He knew that he couldn't be careless in a battle with Sakyamuni. The surrounding crowd fell silent. They couldn't help but look at Zhuowen in disbelief. Sakyamuni had come with great strength. He had broken through 2 Heaven's Passage realm arrays. He was incomparably powerful. They had thought that no one in the 10 Ultimates Corps sect could match him. But this unremarkable middle-aged man beside Ghost Plume suddenly exploded with great battle strength. He clashed with Sakyamuni, shattering Sakyamuni's palm. Within the Corps sect of the 10 Absolutes, the people who were originally in a state of panic were all relieved. They knew that Gue Ling had such a strong expert by his side, and he really did not have to be afraid of Sakra. "Who are you?" Sakyamuni looked at Zhuowen with an ugly expression. He looked up and down. He didn't know why, but he felt that the middle-aged man in front of him gave him a very familiar feeling. At this moment, Sakyamuni's shattered right hand was gradually recovering. Finally, it became a complete hand. Zhuowen looked at this scene deeply. He had long known that Sakyamuni's recovery ability was very strong, but he didn't expect it to be this strong. His Pangu's sacred body's recovery ability was already abnormal enough, but if it was like Sakyamuni's ability to recover immediately, Zhuowen obviously couldn't compare. Zhuowen was very surprised. What kind of body did Sakyamuni have? He was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. In the past, even his soul had been destroyed, but he could still come back to life. Now, his recovery ability was even more terrifying. This made Zhuowen feel that it was inconceivable. Who I am is not important. What's important is that you trespassed into the Corps sect of the 10 Extremes. So, I'll take your life. Zhuowen didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with Sakyamuni. His whole body erupted with a crystal-clear light. Like an arrow released from a bow, Zhuowen shot out and instantly engaged in a fierce battle with Sakyamuni. The battle between the two was very intense. Zhuowen's entire body was sparkling and translucent, while the blue vertical mark in between Sakra's brows flickered and burst out with blue rays of light. Every time they collided, it was as if the heaven and earth were falling apart. It was truly too terrifying. However, Sakyamuni was very sullen because he had been suppressed from the beginning. The more he fought, the more frightened he became. The body of the middle-aged man in front of him was so terrifying that it was beyond his imagination. He was so strong that he was completely suppressed. After a while, Sakyamuni's body was covered with wounds. Blood splattered everywhere, and his hair was messy. He looked very miserable. There was even one time when Zhuowen found a flaw in Sakyamuni's defense and tore off one of his arms. But Sakra's physique was indeed shockingly terrifying. That arm that was torn apart actually grew back again in just 10 breaths of time. However, Zhuowen could see that Sakyamuni needed a lot of energy to regrow his severed arm. After every severed arm grew back, Sakyamuni's combat strength decreased. Then he would be attacked by Zhuowen with all his might. He was in a very sorry state. Bang! A figure fell from midair and smashed into the ground, creating a deep, human-shaped crater. In the Een Corpse sect of the 10 Extremes, everyone involuntarily looked at the crater. They saw Sakyamuni lying miserably in the crater. Chapter 3440. Chase and Escape the Sakra felt exceptionally humiliated. He had actually been defeated by a nameless middle-aged man under the eyes of countless people from the 10 Extremes Een Corpse sect. Moreover, he had been reduced to such a sorry state. At the same time, Sakyamuni's heart was filled with shock and fear. This middle-aged man was so strong that he could completely crush him. Sakyamuni knew that if he continued to fight, he would only be exhausted to death, so he decided to retreat. He knew very well that his Taoist root had evolved to perfection, and his future potential was limitless. His cultivation speed would only get faster and faster. As long as he was given enough time, he would definitely surpass this middle-aged man. When the time came, he would definitely be able to defeat him. But now he knew that he was not as strong as this man. If he continued to fight, he would only be at a disadvantage. So he decided to retreat. All of you are very good. Wait for me to improve my cultivation. Then I will come again. At that time, all of you will die. No one will be left alive. Sakyamuni said fiercely and took out his flying divine artifact, intending to flee. However, as soon as his flying divine artifact was released, it was pierced by a thunderfire sword. Then, the flying divine artifact exploded with thunderfire energy. Sakyamuni could not dodge in time and was hit by the energy. With a muffled groan, he was sent flying and crashed to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Even running away sounds so dignified. Will you die if you don't show off? The thunderfire sword flashed past and floated not far from Sakyamuni. Xiaohei was sitting on the sword's hilt, her little claws crossed. She looked at Sakyamuni with disdain. Sakyamuni did not speak. The blue mark between his eyebrows suddenly opened, and a ray of blue light shot out. Instantly, the space in front of him twisted, and a blue tunnel appeared. Sakyamuni dove into the tunnel. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He wanted to stop Sakra, but unfortunately, Sakra's movements were too much, and his figure had already disappeared into the passage. Zhuowen's eyes were cold and gloomy. He quickly took out Ho Yi's divine arrow and Ho Yi's divine bow and shot out 3 arrows. The 3 divine arrows burst out with blazing bloody light, and before the passage closed, they all rushed into the interior of the passage. Then, Sakyamuni's screams could be heard from within the tunnel. Ho Yi's divine arrow, you're Zhuowen. Damn it, I should have thought of you earlier. Damn you, Zhuowen, don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. After the screams, Sakyamuni recognized Zhuowen's divine arrow and began to threaten him. Then, the passage completely closed. Zhuowen arrived at the passageway. formed seals with both hands, and utilized the energy of space, time, and destiny to quickly deduce the location of the passageway. Then, Zhuowen directly used the fate space-time kill. A mysterious purple river swept out from the void behind him, forcibly opening the space-time tunnel that Sakyamuni had opened. Ghost Plume managed the 10 extremities in corpse sect well. If anyone disobeys, kill them! After Zhuowen gave Ghost Plume his final order, he disappeared into the space-time tunnel. Most of the cultivators in the 10 extremities in corpse sect had heard Zhuowen's words. Some of them, who had been itching to make a move, felt their hearts turn cold. They didn't dare to have any more thoughts. I didn't expect it to be Zhuowen. How is this possible? Isn't he dead? And how can he be so strong? Sakyamuni, who was escaping in the space-time tunnel, had an ugly expression, but more than that, he was shocked. He had heard about the dragon rune in the Eldritch domain, and guessed that the dragon rune was Zhuowen in disguise. He had thought that Zhuowen had really self-destructed and died in the Eldritch domain of the Eldritch domain. He didn't expect that Zhuowen was still alive, and his strength was even more terrifying than his. Sakyamuni found this unbelievable. He was well aware of his own situation, the perfect Tao root that surpassed the heaven grade, and the mysterious physique allowed his cultivation speed to be unbelievably fast. In less than 100 years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the late stage of the heaven ascension realm. This cultivation speed was unparalleled in the entire universe. It was simply too fast. But now, Sakyamuni realized that he had met his match. Every time Zhuowen appeared in front of him, he was able to display strength that was even stronger than his. It was like a curse. Rumble! Suddenly, Sakyamuni felt an extremely powerful and terrifying energy fluctuation behind him. He barely managed to dodge it, but the aftershock still brushed past his body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Sakyamuni's divine perception scanned a few thousand meters behind him. He saw Zhuowen's figure, and his expression instantly became unsightly. This fellow was actually able to enter this spatial passageway. Damn it! There was panic in Sakyamuni's eyes, and he started to desperately increase his speed to escape. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's speed wasn't inferior to Sakyamuni's at all, and he would frequently launch attacks to obstruct Sakyamuni and worsen Sakyamuni's injuries, causing his speed to become much slower. Sakyamuni felt very aggrieved. Not only did he have to flee like a stray dog, but he also had to endure Zhuowen's humiliating attacks. He was extremely furious. However, he didn't dare return to fight Zhuowen because Zhuowen was too terrifying. Wouldn't he be courting death if he returned to fight Zhuowen? Just as Zhuowen and Sakyamuni were fleeing, a figure appeared at the border of the universe where they were. It was a pale-faced young man wearing ice armor. The young man held a token in his hand. The token in his hand emitted a faint blue light, and the blue light converged into a line that swept towards a certain direction, as if it was pointing him in the right direction. Looks like Junior Brother is in this direction. I have to go pick him up. As long as I can bring Junior Brother back to the alternate ghost tribe, I can officially become the Ice Fiend Monarch's disciple. My future is limitless. The young man's eyes were filled with joy. He was Bing Hui, one of the 3 kings of the alternate ghost tribe, and had been sent by the Ice Fiend Monarch to pick up Sakyamuni. However, the energy level in this lower realm is too low. Even with my self-severing cultivation, I only have the power of the 5th of the 5 Devas decay. I still feel like I'm being rejected, and I can't even use my full strength. I really hate this kind of low-level space. Bing Hui frowned. He was very dissatisfied with this part of the universe. Forget it. Let's find Junior Brother first. As long as I can find Junior Brother, I can leave this despicable place as soon as possible. Bing Hui stomped his right foot, and the surroundings emitted a faint blue light. He disappeared from where he stood. Sakyamuni, you won't be able to escape. You'd better give up. If you keep chasing me like this, you'll definitely be exhausted to death. Zhuowen leisurely followed behind Sakyamuni. He blasted out an attack, which landed on Sakyamuni's body. The attack caused Sakyamuni to vomit blood, and his expression was very sullen. A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Zhuowen, I'll fight you to the death.